The roast beef was perfectly cooked, but I could barely taste it. Sunday dinner at my parents' house had always been a performance. Mom's carefully arranged table settings, Dad's practiced anecdotes about the business, my brother Marcus's strategic laughs at all the right moments. But tonight felt different. The air was thick with anticipation, like everyone knew something I didn't. I was pushing peas around my plate when Dad cleared his throat. That sound, I'd heard it 1,000 times before big announcements. Usually about quarterly profits or new acquisitions. Never anything good for me. "Emily," he said, setting down his wine glass. "We need to discuss the future of Harrison Global." I looked up, meeting his eyes across the mahogany table that had witnessed 25 years of family dynamics. The same table where he'd once told me I was too emotional to handle client meetings. Where he'd suggested I stick to administrative work despite my MBA from Wharton. "What about it?" I kept my voice neutral, even as my stomach tightened. "Your brother has shown exceptional leadership potential." Dad smiled at Marcus, who sat straighter in his chair, preening. "He's landed 3 major accounts this quarter alone. The board agrees. It's time to start the succession planning." Mom beamed, reaching over to squeeze Marcus's hand. "We're so proud of you, honey." I took a slow sip of water, letting the ice clink against my teeth. 3 major accounts. They didn't know those accounts had come from my quiet work behind the scenes, my late nights restructuring proposals, my relationships carefully built over years. "Marcus will take over as CEO within the year," Dad continued. "It's the right move for the company. You understand, don't you, Emily? You're just too soft for business, too hesitant. Business requires decisive action." Marcus smirked slightly. "Don't worry, sis. I'll find a place for you somewhere in the company. Maybe in HR. That seems more your speed." I set my fork down carefully, the silver making no sound against the fine china. They had no idea that while they'd been dismissing me as the soft daughter, I'd been building something of my own. Something that would make their 3 major accounts look like pocket change. "Excuse me," I said quietly, standing. "I need to make a call." "Emily," Mom started, her voice carrying that familiar note of disappointment. "Don't be dramatic. This is a family dinner." I smiled, the kind of smile that comes from knowing something they don't. "It's just a quick business call. I'll be right back." Outside on the wraparound porch, the summer evening hummed with cicadas. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. "Hello, James. It's Emily Harrison. I think it's time to move forward with what we discussed." "Yes, all of it. Start the paperwork tonight." I ended the call and looked through the dining room window. They were all laughing now, probably already planning Marcus's coronation. Dad raised his glass in another toast. They had no idea that while they'd been grooming Marcus to run Harrison Global, I'd spent the last 3 years quietly building Vertex Solutions into their biggest client's preferred vendor. No idea that I owned 70% of the company that provided the technology backbone for their entire operation. No idea that by tomorrow morning, when James, my lawyer, filed the paperwork, their precious succession plan would crumble like the apple pie Mom was now serving. I walked back inside, taking my seat just as Dad was telling one of his favorite stories about Marcus's first big sale. "Everything okay?" Mom asked, more out of obligation than concern. "Perfect," I replied, finally taking a bite of the roast beef. It really was perfectly cooked, just finalizing some business details. "Business details?" Marcus laughed. What business could you possibly be handling on a Sunday night? I dabbed my lips with the linen napkin. You'll find out soon enough. Dad frowned slightly. Emily, if this is about the succession plan. Not at all. I cut him off smoothly. I completely understand your decision. Marcus is clearly the right choice to lead Harrison Global. I mean, those 3 major accounts he landed. Impressive. Marcus practically glowed with pride. Well, someone needs to keep the company growing. Absolutely, I agreed. Growth is crucial. Speaking of which, how's the Anderson account? Still our biggest client. Of course, Dad jumped in. 20 years of partnership. They're locked in with us for the long haul. I checked my watch. In exactly 12 hours, that long haul would hit a very sudden stop sign. More wine, anyone? Mom offered, trying to steer us back to safer waters. No, thank you, I said, standing again. I should actually head out. Early meeting tomorrow. On a Monday? Marcus scoffed. With who? I grabbed my purse, slinging it over my shoulder. Oh, just the CEO of Anderson Corp. Nothing major. The silence that followed me out was almost as satisfying as what I knew tomorrow would bring. Almost. That night, in my downtown apartment, I sat at my desk reviewing the documents James had sent over. Everything was in order. The merger agreement, the technology transfer contracts, the new service terms. 3 years of careful planning, all leading to this moment. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hope you're not too upset about dinner. It's just business, sis. Nothing personal. I smiled at the screen. He was right about one thing. It was just business. And by this time tomorrow, they'd learn exactly what kind of businesswoman their soft daughter had become. I closed my laptop and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my father was probably raising another toast to Marcus. Mom was probably already planning the announcement party, and the board members were patting themselves on the back for choosing the right successor. Let them celebrate tonight. Tomorrow would bring a very different kind of meeting. I poured myself a small glass of the whiskey I'd been saving. The same brand Dad always said was too strong for a woman's palate. The liquid burned satisfyingly as I pulled out my phone one last time. A quick text to James. Everything ready for tomorrow. His response came immediately. All set. Board meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. Anderson CEO confirmed for 10. You sure about this? I typed back. Absolutely. Time to show them what too soft looks like. Then I turned off my phone, settled into my favorite chair, and waited for morning to arrive. The calm before the storm felt almost electric. Tomorrow, Harrison Global would learn that while they'd been underestimating me, I'd been building an empire. Tomorrow, they discovered that their biggest client wasn't just partnering with my company. They were merging with it. Tomorrow, they'd finally understand what they'd missed all these years. That sometimes the quiet ones, the soft ones, the ones you dismiss and overlook, they're the ones you should have been watching all along. But tonight I would sleep peacefully, knowing that the next family dinner would be very, very different. Monday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that only comes before life-changing moments. I dressed carefully, a charcoal gray suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back sleek and professional. No flash, no drama, just quiet confidence. My phone had exploded overnight. 27 missed calls from Dad, 15 from Marcus, countless texts demanding explanations. I ignored them all. They'd get their answers soon enough. At exactly 8:45 a.m., I walked into Harrison Global's headquarters. The security guard did a double take. I hadn't been here in months. Not since Dad had suggested I take some time to find myself. The elevator ride to the 30th floor felt surreal. Behind these steel doors, I'd spent countless moments swallowing my pride, hiding my ambitions, playing the role they'd cast me in. Not today. Emily, Jessica, Dad's assistant, nearly dropped her coffee when she saw me. The board meeting's about to start. Your father specifically said. I know what he said. I cut in smoothly. But I think they'll want to hear what I have to say. The boardroom doors were closed, but I could hear voices inside. Marcus's distinctive laugh carried through, probably telling another exaggerated story about his business prowess. I checked my watch. 8:57 a.m. Right on schedule. Emily. Dad's voice boomed as I pushed open the doors. What are you doing here? This is a closed board meeting. The room fell silent. 12 pairs of eyes turned to me. The board members, Marcus and Dad, all wearing various expressions of confusion and annoyance. Good morning, everyone, I said calmly, taking the empty seat at the far end of the table. Please, don't let me interrupt. Marcus stood up, his face reddening. Dad, this is ridiculous. She can't jest. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out my laptop. I can. And you might want to sit down for this. Now listen here, Dad started, but his words were cut off by a sharp knock at the door. James walked in, followed by Michael Anderson, CEO of Anderson Corp., our biggest client, and two people I knew Gabord would recognize, the heads of Anderson's legal and technology departments. What's going on? Dad demanded, standing now. Michael, we didn't have a meeting scheduled until 10 o'clock, Michael finished, checking his watch. We're a bit early. Hope you don't mind. The color drained from Dad's face as Michael took the seat next to me. The others remained standing, creating a powerful visual I knew wouldn't be lost on the board. Emily, Dad's voice had dropped to a dangerous whisper. What have you done? I opened my laptop, connecting it to the room's display screen. Why don't I show you? The first slide appeared. Vertex Solutions logo alongside Anderson Corp.'s with the merger announcement date. Today. 3 years ago, I began, my voice steady. While you were all busy deciding I was too soft for business, I founded Vertex Solutions. We specialize in integrated technology solutions for enterprise-level operations. Sound familiar? It should. We've been handling Anderson Corp.'s entire digital infrastructure for the past 2 years. Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow. This is a joke, right? There's no way you... Vertex Solutions, Michael Anderson cut in, has revolutionized our operations, increased efficiency by 40%, reduced costs by 35%, and yes, your sister built it from the ground up. I clicked to the next slide. The merger details. The numbers were staggering, even to me, and I'd been looking at them for weeks. As of this morning, I continued, Vertex Solutions and Anderson Corp. Are merging. The paperwork has already been filed. And our first order of business? I paused, letting the moment stretch. Reviewing all existing vendor contracts. The silence in the room was deafening. Dad's face had gone from red to white. Marcus looked like he might be sick. You can't do this, Dad finally managed. The Anderson account. We'd had it for 20 years. 19, I corrected. And yes, I can. In fact, I nodded to James. who began distributing folders to the board members I already have. The folders contained what I knew would be their worst nightmare: a complete audit of Harrison Global's service delivery to Anderson Corp over the past 3 years. Every missed deadline, every overcharged invoice, every technical failure that my team at Vertex had quietly fixed while Harrison Global took the credit. "This is personal," Marcus accused, his voice shaking. "You're doing this because of last night." I looked at him calmly. "No, Marcus, I'm doing this because it's good business. Something you'd understand if you'd actually landed those 3 major accounts yourself instead of taking credit for my work." A board member, Mr. Thompson, I noted, was already flipping through the audit report, his face growing grimmer by the page. "These numbers, this is accurate?" "Every page," Michael confirmed. "We've been tracking the discrepancies for months. The only reason we didn't terminate our contract with Harrison Global earlier was out of respect for our relationship with Emily." Dad collapsed back into his chair, looking suddenly old. "Emily, please. We can talk about this. Whatever you want. A position on the board, equity in the company." "I don't want anything from Harrison Global," I said, standing. "I have my own company. One that I built without nepotism, without taking credit for others' work, and without underestimating people because of their gender or their supposed softness." I gathered my things, nodding to Michael and James. "The board has 24 hours to review those documents. After that, we'll need your decision on whether Harrison Global wishes to bid for a new contract under the merged company's terms, or if you prefer to terminate the relationship entirely." As I turned to leave, Marcus found his voice. "You'll regret this when the family finds out." "The family?" I laughed softly. "You mean the same family that spent years telling me I wasn't cut out for business. The same family that was ready to push me into HR because I was too soft to lead." I reached the door and turned back one last time. I think they'll be very interested to learn just how wrong they were. The last thing I saw as the doors closed was Dad's face, a mixture of shock, anger, and something I'd never seen before: respect. In the elevator down, Michael turned to me. "That went well." I smiled. "It did. Thank you for coming in person." "Are you kidding? I wouldn't have missed this for the world." He paused. "You know they'll try to fight back." "Let them," I said, checking my phone. The news of the merger was already hitting the business wires. Harrison Global stock would take a hit the moment the market opened. I'm not afraid of a fight. Back in my car, I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Years of careful planning, of swallowing my pride, of building something in silence, it had all led to this moment. My phone buzzed again. "Mom, this time." "What have you done?" "Your father is devastated." "How could you do this to your family?" I started typing a response, then deleted it. Some answers couldn't be explained in a text. Some lessons had to be learned the hard way. Instead, I called my assistant at Vertex. "Sarah?" "Yes, everything's done. Start the next phase." "And Sarah?" "Book me a table for 1 at La Maison tonight. I think this calls for a celebration." The day wasn't over yet. There would be more meetings, more accusations, more attempts to paint me as the villain. But for now, I had shown them exactly who I was. Not the soft, hesitant daughter they dismissed, but the businesswoman who'd outmaneuvered them all. And this was just the beginning. The aftermath was even more spectacular than I'd anticipated. By Tuesday morning, Harrison Global stock had dropped 18%. The business papers were running headlines like Family Dynasty Disrupted, Harrison Global loses biggest client to founder's daughter, and Vertex Solutions, the silent giant that changed the game. I sat in my office at Vertex, watching the city wake up through floor-to-ceiling windows. My phone had finally stopped buzzing. Either they'd run out of things to say, or they'd realized I wasn't going to respond. The silence felt like victory. Sarah knocked on my door. "Your 9 a.m. is here." I nodded, straightening my desk. "Send them in." The Harrison Global board members filed in. Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. No Dad. No Marcus. Interesting. "Emily," Thompson began, looking uncomfortable in my space. "We've reviewed everything. And," I kept my voice neutral, professional, "the board has voted. We want to negotiate new terms with Vertex Anderson." He paused, "without current management's involvement." I raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "Meaning your father and brother have been asked to step down. Effective immediately." The words hung in the air. I hadn't expected this, hadn't planned for it. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt, but I pushed it aside. They'd made their choices. "I see," I said carefully. "And what exactly are you proposing?" Martinez leaned forward. "We want to discuss a potential merger. Harrison Global and Vertex Anderson. Combined resources, shared leadership." I almost laughed. "You want me to save the company?" "We want to survive," Chen said bluntly. "Your father's leadership style, it's outdated. The board should have seen it sooner." I stood, walking to the window. Below, I could see the Harrison Global building, the same building where I'd been told countless times I wasn't good enough. "No," I said finally, turning back to them. "No." Thompson looked shocked. "Emily, this could be an incredible opportunity. Harrison Global needs to learn to stand on its own," I cut in. "Without nepotism, without relying on family names. I'm happy to negotiate fair contract terms for future business, but a merger? No." They left looking defeated, but I felt lighter. This wasn't about destroying Harrison Global. It was about forcing change. That afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor. "Mom." "Security called," Sarah announced. "Your mother's downstairs. Should I send her up?" Mom looked out of place in my modern office, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Her eyes took in everything. The views, the sleek furniture, the clear signs of success she'd never bothered to notice before. "So this is where you've been hiding," she said, attempting her usual dismissive tone but failing. "Building, Mom. Not hiding." She sat down, smoothing her skirt. "Your father's devastated. The board, they're forcing him out. Your brother too. Is this what you wanted?" What I wanted? I felt years of suppressed anger rising. What I wanted was for my family to see me, to acknowledge my capabilities, to stop treating me like I was somehow less because I didn't fit Dad's idea of a business leader. "We were protecting you." "No," I cut her off. "You were controlling me." "There's a difference." She fell silent, looking at the magazine on my desk, my face on the cover, the headline reading "The Silent Revolution. How Emily Harrison Changed the Game." "I don't even know who you are anymore," she whispered. "That's the problem, Mom. You never did." After she left, I called James. "How's it looking?" "Harrison Global's board is in chaos. They're announcing your father's retirement tomorrow, spinning it as a planned succession. Marcus is being quietly let go." I closed my eyes. "And the family?" "Your cousins have been calling. Apparently, There's a lot of money tied up in Harrison Global stock. They're not happy. They'll survive, I said, though the weight of it all was finally hitting me. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. The same house where just days ago they'd announced my brother's succession. The same dining room where they'd dismissed me one final time. Dad opened the door before I could knock. He looked older, tired, but there was something else in his eyes. "Emily," he said softly, "I suppose we need to talk." Inside, the house was quiet. No Mom, no Marcus, just me and the man who'd spent years underestimating me. "You could have told me," he said as we sat in his study, "about Vertex, about all of it. Would you have listened?" He was quiet for a long moment. "No," he admitted finally. "I wouldn't have believed it. That's the problem, isn't it?" I nodded, feeling tears threatening but holding them back. "You never saw me, Dad. Not really." "I saw what I wanted to see," he said. "A daughter who needed protection. Instead," he gestured vaguely at me, "instead you were building an empire right under my nose." "I learned from watching you," I said. "Every mistake, every success. I just did it differently." He picked up a photo from his desk, me at graduation, young and hopeful. "The board's right, you know. I'm done. Harrison Global needs new leadership." "I know. Marcus," he sighed heavily. "He's not taking it well. He never earned it, Dad. Any of it." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of years of misunderstanding between us. "I'm proud of you," he said finally, the words sounding strange from his lips. "I know it doesn't matter now, but I am." I stood to leave, pausing at the door. "It matters, Dad. It's just too late." The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, press conferences, and reorganization. Harrison Global announced its new leadership. Young, diverse, merit-based. Their stock began to recover. Marcus left the country, reportedly traveling in Europe. Mom stopped trying to make me feel guilty. Vertex Anderson flourished. Our merger became a case study in business schools. The Harrison method, they called it. Building success quietly, strategically, without fanfare until the moment of revelation. 1 year later, I sat in my office, looking at a new email from Dad. He'd started a small consulting firm, helping family businesses navigate succession planning. His message was simple. "I tell them all about you. About how I almost lost everything because I couldn't see past my own prejudices. Some of them listen. Thank you for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life. Love, Dad." I smiled, clicking reply. "Dinner this Sunday? Just us." His response came quickly. "I'd like that." As I looked out at the city skyline, I thought about that Sunday dinner a year ago. The daughter they thought was too soft had turned out to be the strongest of them all. Not through force or drama, but through quiet determination and strategic patience. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others have built. It's about building something better yourself. Something so undeniable that they have no choice but to finally see you for who you really are. I picked up my phone and dialed. "Sarah, clear my schedule for Sunday evening. I'm having dinner with my father." It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly, but it was something like progress. And in business, as in family, sometimes that's the best you can hope for.
It was a warm afternoon in February, and I had just arrived in front of the old ranch house in Shreveport. The wind chimes on the porch made a soft clinking sound. That sound used to mean peace and happy summer days, but now it felt strange, almost empty. I hadn't been back in over a year. Not because I didn't want to come, but because they told me there was no one left here to visit. When the front door creaked open, I didn't get a hug. Instead, I heard a voice that was as rough as the rusty screen door. "So, you finally decided to show up," Grandma said. Her arms were crossed, and her eyes were sharp. I froze. Her words hurt more than I thought they would. "Grandma, what's going on?" I asked as I stepped closer. "They told me you were in a nursing home, that you and Grandpa." She raised her hand to stop me. It shook a little, but the meaning was clear. That one small move felt like a slap. "Your grandfather kept calling your name, Ruth," she said. "He asked for you again, and again while he was dying. He called you his little scientist. But you never came. You never even answered." My chest tightened, and I could barely breathe. "That's not true," I said, my voice shaking. "Please let me see the number he was calling." She looked at me for a moment, then turned and walked into the house. When she came back, she handed me a small notepad. The edges were worn, and the pages were a little bent. I looked down and saw Grandpa's handwriting. But the number on the paper wasn't mine. Not even close. "This isn't my number," I whispered. "I've had the same one since high school." Grandma's eyebrows pulled together. "They told us you changed it when you went to college," she said in a quieter voice. "Said you didn't want to be bothered. That you needed space. That you were ashamed of us." "No," I said, taking a step back. My legs felt weak, and I grabbed the porch railing to steady myself. "Grandma, I came home last spring break. I came here," I said. "Mary was here. She told me no one was home." Grandma's face went pale. "We were here," she said. "We've always been here, Ruth. What are you saying?" "They lied to me," I said, feeling anger rise inside me like a wave. "They told me you and Grandpa were moved to a care home in Cedar Ridge. They said visitors weren't allowed because of quarantine. They said it was better if I stayed focused on school." Her lips parted, but she didn't say anything at first. She looked shocked, like someone had taken all the air from her chest. "They said you didn't want to see me," she finally whispered. "They said you had a new life now, and we weren't part of it." A shaky, bitter laugh slipped out of me. "I never said that," I said. "They cut me off from you on purpose. They didn't even tell me Grandpa was sick until it was already too late. They told me the funeral was at 2 p.m. today. I went to the church, and it was empty." She blinked slowly and sat down on the porch swing, like her legs had given out. "The funeral was at 10 a.m., she said softly, her voice full of pain. I saw the truth settle in her face like a dark cloud. "They told everyone you didn't come," she added. "That you didn't care." I swallowed hard. A lump sat in my throat that wouldn't go away. "I would never miss his funeral," I said, my voice breaking. "Never. He was the only one who ever believed in me." My eyes filled with tears, and everything around me became blurry. Without thinking, I dropped to my knees beside her and rested my face in her lap. For a long time, we didn't say a word. The only sound was the wind moving through the trees, as if it, too, carried secrets. "He died thinking I didn't care," I sobbed. "We know the truth now," Grandma said gently, stroking my hair like she used to when I was little. "We know, Ruth." She wiped her tears with the edge of her sleeve, then looked at me. Her eyes were still sad, but now I saw something else in them too, strength. Slowly, she stood up, brushed off her skirt, and walked into the house. I followed her, not sure what would happen next. Inside, everything looked the same as I remembered. But the air felt different. Heavy. She walked over to the kitchen wall and picked up the phone. Her hands shook a little as she dialed. But when she spoke, her voice was steady again. Strong. I remembered her from when I was little. "Laura, yes, it's me," she said in a flat voice. "I need you, Frank, and Mary to come over right now," Grandma said firmly. I heard a muffled voice on the phone, but before the person could finish, Grandma cut in. "No, I can't wait. I'll be expecting you within the hour," she said, then hung up without saying goodbye. She turned to me. "The lawyer is on his way too," she said calmly, though I could feel something strong under her voice. something burning. Your grandfather left behind a few things. They need to be read out loud, in front of everyone.
I didn't say anything.
I just nodded. I wasn't ready for what was coming, but I also had nothing left to lose. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Stay in the kitchen until I call you, Grandma said softly, placing her hand on my shoulder. I sat at the small kitchen table, the same one where Grandpa used to sit and drink his morning coffee while reading the science articles I cut out for him. Through the wall, I heard their voices. My mom sounded too cheerful, like she was pretending. My dad spoke with his usual fake kindness. Mary let out her usual bored sigh. Then there was silence. Finally, I heard Grandma's voice, sharp and clear. Please, everyone, take a seat. Mr. Samuel Johnson is here to read Justin's will. That was my cue. I stepped into the living room. All three of them looked up at once. My mom's fake smile dropped. My dad turned pale. Mary opened her mouth, but no words came out. I could almost see the thoughts running through their heads. Why was I here? Why had Grandma called them all like this? Mr. Johnson opened his briefcase slowly. He took out a thick envelope. It looked like it didn't just hold legal papers, it held secrets too. He cleared his throat and began. I, Scott Wood, being of sound mind and clear purpose, declare this to be my last will and testament. The room went completely still. Mr. Johnson kept reading. To my beloved wife, Linda Wood, I leave our family home and a lifelong financial allowance to support her comfort and care. Grandma's face stayed calm. She already knew. To my granddaughter, Ruth Wood, Mr. Johnson read, I leave the newly built research center at 240 Imperial Drive. This includes all the lab equipment, the rights to any current projects I've been supporting, and the money needed to keep the work going and the staff paid. The room shifted. It was quiet, but I noticed it. Dad took a sharp breath. Mom's eye twitched. But it was Mary who finally snapped. You've got to be kidding me, she said, her voice shaking with anger. You gave her the lab? The whole thing? Mr. Johnson didn't react. He just kept reading. And finally, the rest of my estate, my accounts, assets, and investments will be split equally between my two granddaughters, Ruth and Mary Wood. The silence after that was heavy. Then Mary jumped up, her chair scraping loudly across the wooden floor. Her face was red, her mouth open in shock. This is crazy. No. I was supposed to get everything, she yelled. That's what you said. She turned to our parents, her voice breaking. You promised. You told me if I visited him, acted like the sweet granddaughter, played the part, it would all be mine. I stared at her, frozen. They had made her pretend. They'd asked her to lie and trick a dying man for his money. And she agreed. But Grandma wasn't done. There's more, she said in a cold voice. She opened a drawer next to her and pulled out a folded letter. Her hand trembled as she gave it to Mr. Johnson. Scott wanted this read too, she said. Mr. Johnson unfolded the letter slowly, careful not to rip the old edges. The paper was slightly yellow, but Grandpa's handwriting was still strong and clear, like every word was written with purpose. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat and read aloud. To my dearest Ruth, if this letter is being read, it means I am no longer with you. That thought breaks my heart. But I hope these words carry some of the love I didn't say enough while I was alive. You were always different. Not in a way that needed to change, but in a way that made everything better. While others chased attention, you searched for truth. While they performed, you quietly watched and learned. You were my little scientist, my pride, my legacy. A sharp breath caught in my chest. I didn't look at anyone, but I could feel my mother's eyes burning into me. I kept staring ahead, holding on to Grandpa's words like a lifeline. I watched you grow up with questions in your eyes, Mr. Johnson read. But no one around you seemed to care enough to answer them. I remember you at 7, holding your little notebook, writing down how long it took for rain to fill a glass jar. I saw how your smile faded every time your mother ignored you, every time your father changed the subject. He paused. The room stayed still. I saw how your bright mind made them feel uneasy, not because you did anything wrong, but because they didn't understand you. And worse, they didn't even try. Mary moved in her seat. Mom folded her arms. Dad looked away. Mary was louder. Easier to praise. Easier for them to raise. So they gave her everything: attention, love, money. I don't blame her for all of it. She just followed the role they gave her. But you, Ruth, you made your own path. That takes strength. I admired that more than I ever told you. A tear slid down my cheek. Grandma reached over and gently held my hand. I remember when you won your first regional science competition, Mr. Johnson went on. Your parents didn't even come. They were at Mary's dance rehearsal. You came to our porch afterward, holding the trophy with both hands, not sure whether to feel proud or embarrassed. You asked if we could hide it under your bed instead of putting it on a shelf. You said, maybe if I don't show it, they'll stop looking at me like I don't belong. My heart broke that day. The room felt smaller, tighter. My mother didn't move. My father looked pale. Mary stayed quiet, biting her bottom lip. You deserved more, Mr. Johnson continued. Not just things, but love. You deserve to be seen, to be accepted, to be yourself. And while I can't fix the past, I can help shape your future. That's why I built the lab for you. That's why I changed the will. You are not a mistake. You are a miracle they never deserved. Mr. Johnson slowly folded the letter. The silence that followed was deep and heavy. I thought of the trophies I kept hidden in that box under my bed. I remembered sitting for hours, moving them around like puzzle pieces I never knew where to put. I remembered hiding my certificates in drawers. I remembered Mary's words echoing in my head. Nobody likes a know-it-all. I opened my mouth in front of her friends, and suddenly I remembered all those times I did Mary's homework for her. You're just better at this stuff, she used to say as she dropped her books in front of me without asking. Mary, that's cheating, I told her once. Ruth, help your sister. Mom had snapped from the hallway. Family helps family. But it never felt like help. It felt like control. There was always a pattern. Mary demanded my parents supported her, and I gave in. I thought if I stayed useful, maybe they would love me more. Sometimes I heard them talking when they thought I was asleep. I just don't get where she gets it from, Mom would whisper. She's not like us, Dad would say, sounding like it was a joke. Maybe we brought home the wrong baby, they'd laugh. But I never laughed. I looked down at my hands, older now, steadier, stronger than they were when I used to hold a magnifying glass in the backyard, trying to catch sunlight in a jar. Grandpa had seen me. He always saw me. And now he made sure the world would see me too. I was always the quiet one. The one who stayed behind while the rest of the family moved together, like a perfect little team. Mary was always the center, the star. My parents circled around her like planets around the sun. I told myself I didn't need their attention. But even lies get heavy when you carry them too long. While Mary danced on stage in shiny costumes, I sat in the back row, holding my breath. I watched Mom stand and clap, like she was the proudest parent in the world. She never clapped like that for me. I don't even think she knew when my science fair was. I remember one birthday, I must have been 10. Grandma and Grandpa drove in from the ranch. Grandpa gave me a microscope kit. It was wrapped in newspaper with a bow made of string. I was so happy. Mary rolled her eyes and said, of course she'd want a box of germs. Mom laughed. Well, that's our Ruth. Always the little odd one. That night, I set up the microscope on the kitchen counter. I couldn't wait. I made little slides out of pond water, onion skin, flower petals, anything I could find. But just as I leaned in to focus the lens, Mom's voice cut through the hallway like a knife. Ruth, clean that up. Mary's friends are coming over. I don't want your science mess out. She didn't even look at me when she said it. That was always the pattern. Mary had guests, had parties, had big celebrations, and perfect family photos. I had books, quiet, and a world I created out of pages and numbers because there was no place for me in the real one. Even when I succeeded, scholarships, awards, invitations to summer research camps, my parents acted like it was just another task on their list. Like I was something to check off, not celebrate. I have to fill out more paperwork? Can't you skip this one? They'd say. We already did the last camp. What about Mary's trip to Hawaii? We can't be everywhere. They didn't understand. Those moments were the only things keeping me going. Being seen by strangers meant more to me than being ignored by my own family. And it wasn't just about being forgotten. Sometimes, it felt like they were annoyed I even existed, like I didn't fit into the picture they wanted to show the world. One time at school, I heard my mom talking to another parent. Ruth? Oh, she's our little genius, she said with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. She's a bit intense, but we're trying to help her be more normal. I had slipped into the bathroom and locked myself in a stall, holding onto the toilet tank just to stop my hands from shaking. Even when I tried to make them proud when I got into the gifted program, when I was accepted early to university, they didn't react with happiness. They looked afraid. Are you sure you're ready for that? You'll be so far away. Don't rush through life, Ruth. It's okay to be ordinary. But I wasn't ordinary. I had never been. And Grandpa knew it. He was the only one who never asked me to be less. I remember once when I was 12, I ran behind the barn, crying because Mary told me I'd never be pretty enough to matter. Grandpa found me. He didn't ask what happened. He just handed me a small notebook and said, "Write down the things they don't understand. One day, the world will." That notebook stayed with me for years. Through high school, through failed science experiments, through lonely school lunches, through birthdays no one remembered. It became my shield, my safe place. Now, sitting in the living room across from the same family who once made me feel invisible, I felt all those years surround me like armor. They had spent so long trying to dim my light. But Grandpa gave me a place to shine, and now they had to watch. The silence after the letter was read didn't last long. Mary jumped up, her face red with anger and disbelief. "This is ridiculous," she shouted. "Why should she get anything? She wasn't even around. She disappears for years and suddenly walks back in and takes half of everything, the lab, the money." She looked to Mom and Dad, her voice cracking. "You told me it was mine. You promised." Mom's face stayed blank, hard to read, but her hands twisted in her lap like she was holding something back. "She was trying to get something out of nothing," Mary said, her voice getting louder with each word. "We had a deal. I did everything you asked. I acted the part. I visited him when you told me to. I said all the right things. I was the perfect granddaughter." Her voice cracked. "You made me beg a dying man for his approval." The words hung in the air like thick smoke. Even Grandma blinked. "And now I'm supposed to just share?" Mary gave a dry, bitter laugh. "With her?" I looked up and met her eyes for the first time since walking in. I didn't feel angry anymore. I wasn't scared. I just saw the truth clearly now. "You didn't visit him because you cared," I said softly. "You went because you were promised something." Mary stopped moving. "You never sat with him for hours, talking about books, science, or his garden." I went on, my voice steady. "You never stayed by his bed unless someone told you to." I was kept away by lies, but at least my love for him was real. "Enough," Mom snapped, standing up. "This is not the time to lecture your sister. You don't understand the pressure we've all been under." "Pressure?" I repeated, almost laughing. "You mean hiding the truth? Cutting me off from the only people who supported me?" Dad stood up too, adjusting his collar like he was about to give a speech. "Let's be reasonable," he said. "Think about what you're doing. Your education was paid for. All those science camps, competitions, even international trips. Do you know how much that cost us?" The room felt like it shifted. My breath caught, then steadied. "You didn't pay for any of that," I said, voice quiet but clear. "Grandma and Grandpa did. Every fee, every plane ticket, every piece of equipment. It was all them, not you." Dad opened his mouth to speak, but I didn't let him. "You made it clear from the start I wasn't your priority. You never hid that." "That's not the point," Mom snapped. "Family means sacrifice. Mary needs this more than you. If you really want to honor your grandfather, sign over your part." Grandma stood then. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "How dare you," she said. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. How dare you stand in the house my husband built and talk about sacrifice? Mom blinked. Linda. No, Grandma said, firm and sharp. You lied to him. You used him. While he was dying, you looked him in the eyes and lied. And now you stand here and talk about family? She turned to Mary. You may have played your part, but it was never love. It was a deal. And I'm ashamed to say it. I didn't understand it before, but now I do. Mary's face twisted, but she didn't say anything. Grandma took a deep breath, her hand gripping the armrest tightly. There was quiet anger in her eyes. My only regret is that Justin left you anything at all, she said. Then she looked at the door. Leave, she said, calm but firm. All of you. You're not welcome here. No one moved. So she said it again, louder, not in volume, but in strength.
Now.
Mom tried to speak. Linda, we're family.
Not anymore, Grandma said.
Mary stormed out first, her heels hitting the wooden floor like gunshots. My parents followed, mumbling something about lawyers and changing the will. But they left. And for the first time, they couldn't take anything with them. The house went quiet again. Not the heavy silence from before. This one was peaceful.
Free.
It's been 7 years since that day. 7 years since the front door slammed shut behind my parents and sister. Their angry footsteps were like the last part of a storm blowing out to sea. I haven't spoken to them since. Sometimes I see their names pop up, unknown numbers, new emails, fake friend requests. I delete them all without reading. I don't need apologies, especially the kind that only come when someone feels left out. They made their choice. And I made mine. The lab Grandpa left me, my lab, grew from a small research space into something real and important. We named it the Scottwood Innovation Center. It wasn't just about keeping his name alive. It was about honoring his belief in me. We focus on smart farming technology, things like water-saving systems, stronger crops, and safer ways to protect plants. The same ideas I once brought to school science fairs now help real farms survive across the state. Last month, I stood on a stage in Albuquerque to accept a national grant for climate innovation. I wore a navy blue suit and carried my mother's silence like armor. The crowd clapped. The spotlight didn't scare me. I looked straight into it and didn't blink. Next to the stage, under our foundation's logo, there was a photo of Grandpa smiling in a field of sunflowers. The caption said, "For the dreamers who believe in those the world overlooks." Somewhere, I think he saw it. Emma and Tyler, my closest friends since college, now run their own departments in the center. We laugh a lot. We still ruin experiments sometimes. We still burn popcorn in the break room microwave.
But we also change lives.
Not because we're better, but because someone believed in us. And that made all the difference. Sometimes I wonder if Mary ever thinks about that day. I wonder if Mom still hosts dinner parties and tells people, "I have 2 daughters," with that fake smile she used to practice in the mirror. I wonder if Dad still calls himself a man of strong values. But most days, I don't wonder at all. Yesterday, I was cleaning one of the old bookcases in the lab's library, one I hadn't touched in years. Inside a worn-out copy of The Nature of Things, I found a photograph. I knew right away, just by the faded edges, that it was me. I must have been about 9 years old, crouched in the grass behind the barn, holding a magnifying glass up to a beetle on a leaf. Grandpa was standing beside me, pointing at something in the distance. We were both smiling. On the back of the photo, in his neat and careful handwriting, he had written, "My little scientist will change the world someday." I sat there for a long time, holding it like it was something precious. Because now I know he was right. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My chest felt tight as I stared at my phone. There was my mom, sitting at our family dining table, holding a wine glass, completely unaware she was being shown live on the internet. "Oh, please," my mom said, rolling her eyes. "My daughter thinks selling houses makes her successful. She couldn't handle nursing school, and now she's just drifting through life like a failure." My cousin Samantha had texted me an hour earlier. "You need to see this." "I'm so sorry." She'd sent me a link to her latest live stream. She was trying to become a social media influencer and often shared videos from family events. I was out of town for a real estate conference in Worcester when the family had gathered for Thursday dinner. I had just gotten to my hotel room when I got the message. My name is Kate Scott. I'm 33 years old. For the last 6 years, I've been quietly paying for my mother's medical care since she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I've been driving her to her doctor appointments, handling her insurance paperwork, and paying for her medication. I've been working 84-hour weeks to keep my real estate business going in Austin. No one at that dinner knew I had emptied my savings account last year when her insurance wouldn't cover a special treatment. It's really sad. My mom kept talking in the video, clearly enjoying the attention from my aunts and uncles. She used to dream about becoming a nurse, and now all she does is sell houses to people who actually made something of themselves. She laughed. To my shock, my aunt and uncle laughed with her. Samantha's camera had captured it all. It looked like she was filming secretly from her lap, probably trying to show a normal family dinner to her followers. My mom had no idea she was being recorded, which made everything she said feel even more painful. When I dropped out of nursing school, my mom turned to my aunt and said, "She came home crying about how hard the exams were. So pathetic. And now she acts like selling a house once in a while makes her successful." The truth is, I paused my nursing studies so I could take care of her when she got sick. I was doing well in real estate, but every extra dollar I made went toward her medical expenses instead of going back to school. "She just doesn't have what it takes," my mom said with a dramatic sigh, picking up her wine glass. That wine, by the way, was the one I bought for our family dinners. "Some people just aren't made for real success," she added. The live stream went on for another painful minute before Samantha finally pointed the camera away. I sat frozen in my hotel room, tears falling down my face. The truth hit me hard. For years, I told myself that my mom's harsh words came from her pain, or maybe from her old-fashioned way of pushing me to do better. But this wasn't just a bad moment. This was how she really felt. And now I had proof. My phone buzzed again. It was another message from Samantha. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." I didn't realize what she was saying until it was too late. "Do you want me to take the video down?" I stared at the message for a while, then replied, "No. Leave it up. I need to show you something tomorrow when I get back." The drive home from Worcester the next morning was a blur. I barely remembered checking out of the hotel or the 3-hour drive. All I could think about were her words, how she laughed while insulting the career I built to take care of her. 6 years ago, my life was headed in a very different direction. I was 28, halfway through nursing school, and doing well. I had always wanted to become a nurse, so I could help people and make a difference. Then everything changed with one phone call. My mom had collapsed at work and was taken to the hospital. The diagnosis: aggressive rheumatoid arthritis, something that would need constant care and treatment. "This isn't fair," she cried from her hospital bed. "How am I supposed to pay for all of this? The insurance barely covers anything." I held her hand and told her, "We'll figure it out together, Mom." My dad had passed away when I was in high school, so it had just been the two of us since then. Even with her sharp comments and tough attitude, we had always leaned on each other. I thought we had a real bond. Growing up, she worked extra hours and made sacrifices so I could have a better life. I believed it was my turn to give back. So when she got sick, I made a hard choice. I paused my nursing studies and moved into real estate. It gave me flexible hours and enough income to take care of her and pay the bills. At first, I thought it would only be for a little while, just until her health got better and I could save up enough to go back to school. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. The treatments helped her feel better, but they were expensive. She needed medicine, specialist visits, and physical therapy. I became the one handling all her healthcare needs. I spent hours on the phone with insurance companies and reading about treatments. Every now and then, she would say, "You've become so responsible." Those few kind words kept me going through sleepless nights and long work days. When I pulled into my driveway, I just sat there quietly for a moment. She didn't know I had come back. She still thought I was in Worcester at the real estate conference. I had ended my trip early after watching that awful video. My phone buzzed. It was Samantha. "I'm at the coffee shop on Medford. Can meet whenever you're ready." I took a deep breath and tried to get my thoughts together. I opened my laptop bag and pulled out a folder labeled Mom, Medical. Inside were 6 years' worth of paperwork. Every payment I had made, insurance bills, medication costs, doctor appointments, was carefully organized with receipts and bank statements. I had kept everything for tax reasons, never thinking I'd one day use it to show how deeply I'd been hurt. I grabbed the folder, took another deep breath, and replied, "Be there in 25 minutes." The coffee shop was full, but I spotted Samantha right away. At 17, she stood out with her bright blue hair and big headphones. When she saw me, her face instantly filled with guilt. "I'm so sorry, Kate," she said as I sat down. I didn't know she'd say those things. I was just doing my usual live stream, and then Aunt Rachel started talking, and it turned ugly so fast. "It's not your fault," I said, stopping her. "Actually, I want to thank you." Samantha looked confused. "Thank me for what?" I placed the folder on the table, opened it, and showed her the documents. "For showing me the truth," I said softly. "I've been paying for everything, her medicine, her treatments, her insurance." Samantha's eyes widened as she looked through the papers. "This is a lot. This is thousands of dollars." "Over $200,000, I said. "I gave up my degree, my savings, even relationships, everything, just to take care of her. I thought she needed me." Samantha looked up from the papers, her shocked face turning into anger. "And she calls you a failure? That's just wrong." I nodded, feeling a strange calm inside me. For years, I believed her harsh words were her way of pushing me to do better. Deep down, I thought she appreciated what I was doing. I gave a bitter laugh. I guess I was wrong. "So, what are you going to do now?" Samantha asked. I took the folder back and answered, feeling my decision become clearer as I spoke. "I'm done. I already have the paperwork ready to take my name off all her accounts." "You're not going to talk to her about it?" I shook my head. "What's the point? She'll just say I'm being dramatic or that I'm too sensitive." I opened my banking app on my phone. For months, I'd been saving a little money every month, hoping to go back to nursing school one day. Now I was finally going to use it for me. As I spoke, I moved the money I had set aside for her next treatment into my personal savings account. It was a small action, but it felt huge. "Wow," Samantha whispered. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure," I said. My voice sounded stronger than I expected. "I've spent 6 years being her backup, while she made fun of everything I did. That ends today." I showed Samantha the acceptance letter I had received months ago from the nursing program. I had almost pushed it off again because of my mom's treatments. "I start this fall," I told her, "and I'm not delaying it again." Samantha reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'll send you the full video, just in case you ever need it." As we said goodbye, I felt something lift. For the first time in years, I was choosing myself. I thought I would feel guilty, but I didn't. Instead, I felt clear, focused, and ready. The next day, I called the insurance company. "You want to remove yourself as the guarantor on Rachel Scott's accounts?" The woman on the phone asked, confused. "Can I ask why?" "For personal reasons," I said calmly. "I won't be responsible for any payments after this month." It was day 2 of my new plan. I had spent the weekend sorting everything out, calling insurance companies, changing payment info, and writing emails. My dining table was covered with papers as I took apart the financial setup I had built to take care of her. The woman on the phone said, "Miss Scott, just so you know, without your support, your mother's premium will go up a lot. Her coverage may change." "I understand," I said. Then I paused. "Can you please send her a letter explaining all of this? I want to make sure she knows exactly what's happening." I knew exactly what I was doing. The letter from the insurance company would arrive in about a week, giving me time to finish the rest of my plan before facing my mom. Since yesterday, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing with her messages. She didn't know what was going on, but she had expected me to drive her to a doctor's appointment that morning. I didn't show up. "Where are you?" "I've been waiting for an hour." The doctor's office called. "My insurance card didn't work." "Fix it now." "Are you ignoring me?" Answer your damn phone, Kate. Each message only made me more sure of my decision. I put my phone on silent and kept working. By that evening, I had taken care of most of the money-related tasks. Next, I opened my laptop and wrote an email to my whole extended family. I kept it simple and clear. Dear family, after much thought, I've decided to step away from managing my mother's medical care and finances. For the last 6 years, I've paid for everything related to her illness, over $230,000 in total. This includes insurance premiums, medication, doctor visits, and treatments. I've made this choice for personal reasons, but I wanted to let you all know in case she needs help going forward. Attached is a full breakdown of the support I've provided. If anyone wants to step in, now's the time. This decision wasn't easy. Best regards,
Kate.
I attached a spreadsheet showing every payment, appointment, and hour I had spent taking care of her. The facts were all there, clear and undeniable. Just like Samantha promised, she had sent me the full video of the live stream. I saved copies on my computer, cloud storage, and a USB drive. I didn't know how or when I might need it, but I had a feeling it could be important later. Then the doorbell rang. It made me jump. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother standing there, her face twisted in anger.
Kate.
I know you're in there. Open this door right now. My heart was pounding. I stayed quiet, watching her shadow move outside the door. You've missed 5 of my calls. The pharmacy says my refill was denied. What are you doing? I took a deep breath and answered, loud and clear through the door. I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. You'll get a letter from the insurance company soon. Please read it carefully. What are you talking about? Open this door.
No.
That one word felt strong coming out of my mouth. I know what you really think of me, I said. I think it's time we both moved on with our lives. There was a moment of silence before she burst out. Is this about money? After everything I've done for you? I almost laughed at how backward that sounded.
Goodbye, Mom.
Please don't come back. As she shouted louder, I walked away from the door and sat back down at my laptop to finish what I had started. With every step, I felt lighter, like I was finally letting go of a heavy weight I'd carried for too long. The reactions came quickly. Within hours of sending my email, my phone lit up with messages. Aunt Lauren said she was shocked and disappointed. Uncle Peter called me selfish and heartless. My cousin Brandon said I should fix things with Mom and stop being dramatic. Only Samantha and, to my surprise, my elderly Aunt Christina supported me. Christina sent a short message. It takes courage to stand up for yourself, dear. Call me if you need anything. I blocked my mom's number first. Then I muted the family members who didn't even ask to hear my side. After that, everything felt quiet and peaceful. 5 days later, I sat in the admissions office at Austin City Nursing School, finalizing my re-enrollment for the fall. You've been away from the program for a while, Miss Scott, the advisor said while looking at my records. But your past grades are strong. You'll need to take a placement test to see if you need any review classes. I understand, I said, feeling a wave of excitement. I've already started reading my old textbooks. Walking around campus afterward, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging. This was where I was meant to be. I was finally chasing my own dreams, not living my life around someone else's needs. My real estate business would need to change. I planned to take fewer clients, focus on higher-priced homes, and hire a part-time assistant to help with the paperwork. I knew I'd earn less, but now that I wasn't paying for my mother's care, I could manage. When I got home, I found a formal envelope in the mail. It was a letter from the insurance company, addressed to my mom but sent to me by mistake. It explained the changes in her plan and how her costs would go up since I was no longer the one responsible. I should have felt bad, but I didn't. I felt justified. Then my phone rang. It was Samantha. Have you seen what's going on in the family group chat? She asked right away. I left those chats, I said. What's happening? Your mom is telling everyone that you've had a mental breakdown. She says your business is failing, and that's why you're acting this way. I could hear the sarcasm in Samantha's voice. She's completely changing the story. I let out a sigh. Not surprised. That's what she always does. That's not all, Samantha added. She didn't know I was still in the group chat. She convinced Aunt Lauren to let her stay with her for now, just until she figures out her medical stuff. Of course she did, I said, shaking my head. Mom always finds someone else to save her. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and looked at the video file Samantha had sent me, the live stream that changed everything. I hadn't watched it since that painful night in the hotel. My finger hovered over the play button. There was power in that video. It showed who my mother really was when she thought no one was watching. It could prove I wasn't lying. It could clear my name. But did I need to prove anything? The people who believed her without ever asking me what happened, were they even worth convincing? I closed the laptop without playing the video. I had it if I ever needed it. But right now, I had more important things to do. My nursing school application was done. I had scheduled my placement test. For the first time in years, I was planning my own future, not fixing someone else's problems. The insurance letter was still on my counter, a reminder of the shift I had made. I picked up a new envelope and wrote my mother's real address on it. I placed the letter inside with a short note. This came to my address by mistake. Please read it carefully. No signature. No emotion. Just the truth. I dropped it in the mailbox and felt another weight lift off me. Her problems were hers now, not mine. 3 weeks passed quietly. I spent every free moment getting ready for nursing school, studying in between real estate showings and meetings. My placement test was on Saturday, and with each practice test, I felt more ready and more confident. Then came the surprise. I had just finished showing a 2-bedroom house in Somerville when I noticed them in my rearview mirror, my mother and Aunt Lauren, standing next to Mom's car in the parking lot. My first instinct was to drive away, but they had already seen me. Leaving would only delay the moment. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. Sinead, my mom said with a fake sweet voice, "We need to talk." I could see the stress on her face. Her hair was messy, and she leaned heavily on her cane, a cane she usually only used when she wanted people to notice her illness. "I have nothing to say," I told her, holding my car keys tightly in my hand. Aunt Lauren stepped forward. "Your mother is struggling, Kate. Her medication costs have gone way up, and she can't get appointments with her doctors anymore. Is this what you wanted?" "What I wanted," I said calmly, "was to be treated with basic respect. What I wanted was appreciation for 6 years of sacrifice. What I wanted was a mother who didn't call me a desperate failure behind my back." My mother's face turned pale. "What are you talking about?"
I saw the video, Mom, I said.
Samantha's live stream from the family dinner. I looked her in the eye. "I heard every word you said about me." Her expression changed. First a flash of guilt, then anger. "You're taking it out of context. I was just letting off steam. Everyone does that." Aunt Lauren looked confused. "Video? Rachel, what is she talking about?" I almost laughed. My mom hadn't even told her closest supporters about the video. Maybe she thought I'd never find out. "Show her the video if you want," I said to my mom. "Or don't. It doesn't matter. I've made my choice." My mother suddenly changed her tone. Her voice cracked. "I'm your mother, Kate. After everything I've done for you, how can you walk away when I need you most?" Something inside me broke loose. 6 years of bottled-up feelings came rushing out. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated in disbelief. "Let me tell you what I've done for you. I put my life on hold. I spent over $200,000 on your care. I drove you to every doctor's visit. I filled every prescription. I fought with insurance companies day and night. And how did you thank me? You called me pathetic. You made fun of the job I took to support you." My hands were shaking, but my voice was firm. "I sent proof to everyone in the family. Every payment, every appointment, every moment I gave up for you. So don't stand there pretending I'm the bad guy." Aunt Lauren's face changed. She was now looking at my mom with doubt. "Rachel," she said slowly, "what exactly was in that video?" My mother didn't answer. Instead, she turned back to me, still trying to sound upset. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but this is too much. I'm dealing with serious health issues." "I know," I said calmly. "And I supported you through all of it, for 6 years. Now it's someone else's turn. I turned to Aunt Lauren. She's staying with you now, right? Has she asked you for money yet? How many times have you taken her to the doctor? How many prescriptions have you picked up? Her silence gave me the answer. That's what I thought, I said, turning back toward my car. I wish you both well, but I won't be controlled anymore. This isn't over, my mother shouted behind me. You can't just walk away from family. I stopped, my hand on the car door. You're right about one thing, Mom. Real family doesn't walk away from each other. But real family also doesn't tear you down or use you. So maybe think about who really walked away first. As I drove off, I glanced in the rearview mirror. My mother was waving her arms and clearly yelling at Aunt Lauren. Some things never change, I thought. But I had changed. As I headed home to study for my nursing exam, I noticed something for the first time in years. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. 2 months passed in a blur of busy days and new beginnings. I passed my nursing placement exam, got into the accelerated program for returning students, and reorganized my real estate business to fit my new school schedule. I hired Cheryl, a smart college student, as my part-time assistant. She handled paperwork and helped schedule showings while I was in class. It wasn't always easy. There were late nights, mix-ups in my calendar, and moments where I doubted myself. But with each small win, I felt more sure that I had made the right choice. The weight I had carried for so long was finally gone. I woke up each day with fresh energy and purpose. Things with my family settled into an uncomfortable quiet after the parking lot confrontation. But a week later, Aunt Lauren reached out to me. Over coffee, she said, I had no idea what you were going through. Rachel told me you were being difficult and selfish. I should have asked for your side. It's okay, I said, and I meant it. Mom's always been good at controlling the story. That same month, I was surprised to be nominated for an award by my broker. It was the Austin Real Estate Association's Resilience in Real Estate Award, given to agents who faced big challenges but still kept their business going. I was touched. You're a guaranteed winner, my coworker Jason told me at our weekly meeting. You've closed more deals than anyone else here and started nursing school. If that's not resilience, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I hadn't expected to win, but I was really looking forward to the ceremony. It felt like a chance to celebrate everything I had achieved, both in my career and in my personal life. The night of the event arrived. I stood in a hotel ballroom, surrounded by people from Austin's real estate world. I wore a dark blue dress I had bought just for this occasion, my first non-work-related treat in years. After picking up a glass of champagne from a passing server, I chatted with colleagues and reconnected with old contacts I hadn't seen in a long time. Kate Scott, someone called out. I turned and saw Megan Mullally, one of the most successful brokers in Austin. I was hoping to see you here, she said. I've heard great things about your work in Somerville. We talked about recent market trends, and to my surprise, I felt relaxed and confident. It was a welcome change from the stressed-out version of myself I used to be. Then my phone buzzed inside my clutch. I ignored it at first, wanting to stay in the moment. But when it buzzed again a minute later, I stepped away politely and checked the screen. 5 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize and a text. It's Samantha. Using Uncle Dylan's phone. Emergency. A call back ASAP. A knot tightened in my stomach. I stepped into a quiet hallway and called back. Samantha, what's going on? I'm so sorry to bother you, she said quickly. I'm at the hospital with your mom. She fell. The doctors think it might be a bad reaction to her new medicine. She's asking for you. I closed my eyes, waiting for the usual rush of guilt and panic. It came, but this time it felt smaller. I could handle it. Is she stable? I asked. Yes, Samantha said. But they're keeping her overnight. I didn't want to call you, but Uncle Dylan said I should. I heard some voices in the background, then Dylan got on the phone. Kate, it's Dylan. Look, I know things have been rough, but your mom needs you. The doctors have questions about her medical history that we can't answer. As we spoke, I saw people heading into the ballroom for the awards presentation. It was about to begin. I understand, I said, already deciding what to do. But I'm at an important work event right now. I'll come to the hospital afterward. Dylan's voice sharpened. This is your mother. Surely whatever party you're at can wait. The old me would have dropped everything and rushed over. But I wasn't that version of myself anymore. I'll be there in about 3 hours, I said clearly. Please let the doctors know I'll answer anything they need then. And Dylan, thank you for being there with her. I ended the call and took a deep breath. I turned to head back into the ceremony and caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror. My shoulders were back, head held high, and my eyes looked clear. For the first time in years, I actually recognized the person staring back at me. And the winner of the Resilience in Real Estate Award goes to Kate Scott. The room filled with applause. I froze for a moment, completely surprised. I truly didn't expect to win. Jason nudged me with a big grin, and I stood up, walking to the stage. The crystal trophy felt heavy and real in my hands. As I stepped up to the microphone, I looked out at the crowd, familiar faces from work, mentors, and even past competitors. All of them were clapping for me. The feeling was overwhelming. Thank you, I began, my voice stronger than I expected. This means more than I can say. The last few years have been tough, I continued. Balancing a demanding job with personal responsibilities hasn't been easy. There were so many days I wanted to give up. I paused, thinking of all the late nights I spent researching treatment options for my mom, and the early mornings I dragged myself to property showings after sleepless nights. But real estate isn't just about selling homes, I said. It's about pushing through hard times, adjusting when things change, and finding answers even when it feels impossible. Those same skills, I explained, had helped me get through my struggles and led me back to my first passion, nursing. The room grew quiet with interest. I'm now studying nursing while still working with my real estate clients, I added. And I've never been happier. This award isn't just about professional success. It's proof that we can start over and grow at any point in life. Thank you for this honor. As I returned to my seat, the applause followed me. Jason and other coworkers gave me hugs and handshakes, their pride clear. After the ceremony, a few people came over, curious about my journey and excited to hear more about my path into nursing. When I finally looked at my phone, it was almost 10 p.m. I had 5 missed calls from Uncle Dylan and a text from Samantha. She's stable. Take your time. I packed up my things, carefully placing the trophy in my tote bag, said goodbye to a few people, and headed out. The hospital was about a 30-minute drive. I used that time to get my thoughts in order and prepare for the talk I knew was coming. When I walked into the hospital room, I found my mom sitting up in bed. She looked surprisingly alert for someone who had just gone through a serious medical scare. Uncle Dylan was in the chair next to her, and Samantha stood by the window, looking unsure. My mom looked at me and said, "Finally." I walked into the room. My mom's tone was sharp. "Nice of you to fit us into your busy schedule." I set down my tote bag, the corner of the trophy box sticking out. "Hi, Mom. I came as soon as my event ended. How are you feeling?" "How do you think I'm feeling?" she snapped. I collapsed. "I could have died, and you were too busy partying to care." Uncle Dylan cleared his throat, clearly uneasy. "The doctor said it was likely a reaction to the new medication. They've adjusted it, and she should be fine to go home tomorrow." I nodded, keeping my voice calm. "That's good news. I'm glad it wasn't more serious." My mom's face twisted with anger. "This never would have happened if you hadn't left me. My new insurance is useless. I can't afford most of my medicine. These new doctors don't know my history like my old ones did." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said gently. "I know it must be hard adjusting to new care." My calm response seemed to make her even more upset. "That's all you have to say? After everything you've done to me?" I looked at Samantha. Her face showed both embarrassment and sympathy. She gave me a quiet nod. "Mom," I said softly, "I took care of you for 6 years. I put my life on hold to make sure you had the best care. I paid for your treatments. I was always there. And how did you repay me? You called me a desperate failure. You laughed at the career that helped keep you alive. You laughed at my dreams." Uncle Dylan's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about, Kate?" Samantha stepped forward. "The video, Uncle Dylan. The live stream I accidentally recorded during dinner a few months ago. Mom didn't tell you. My mother's face turned pale. That's not important. Kate is twisting everything to make herself look good. I reached into my tote bag and pulled out the trophy. I set it on the bedside table, where the light hit the engraved words clearly. Resilience in Real Estate, Kate Scott. I won an award tonight, I said to Uncle Dylan, for keeping my business going through difficult times. Those hard times included 6 years of paying for Mom's care, financially and medically, while she made fun of my success behind my back. I saw understanding in Uncle Dylan's eyes as he looked at the trophy, then at my mom's defensive expression. I didn't come here to argue, I said. I came because you needed information and I wanted to make sure you were okay. I don't wish you harm, Mom. I never have. I just couldn't keep giving up my life for someone who didn't value it. The room went quiet. For once, my mom didn't have anything to say. No snappy comeback, no guilt trips. She just stared at the trophy, the clear proof of the success she had mocked so easily. I should go, I said gently. I have class early tomorrow. Samantha, want me to give you a ride home? As we left, I heard Uncle Dylan's voice, low and serious, asking my mom something. The conversation I had avoided for months was finally happening. But this time, I didn't have to fight to be heard. 2 months later, I stood in my white uniform, hands steady as I placed in 4 for a patient. My nursing instructor watched closely and gave a nod of approval. Excellent work, Scott. Your clinical skills are improving fast. I smiled as I finished securing the line. Thank you. It feels like everything's finally coming together. After my shift at the teaching hospital, I walked to my car and checked my phone. A message from Samantha popped up. Prof interview going viral. 30K views already. I laughed and shook my head in disbelief. Last week, I had done an interview with the Austin Medical Journal about people changing careers and going into nursing later in life. The interviewer had asked how my real estate background helped me in healthcare. Both fields need attention to detail, strong communication, and the ability to guide people through big life changes, I had explained. And both taught me the importance of setting boundaries, something every healthcare worker needs. As I drove home, my phone rang through the car's Bluetooth. The number wasn't saved. Hello. Kate, it's Dylan. My uncle's voice sounded a bit unsure. Do you have a minute? I stiffened a little. Is everything okay? Yes, everything's fine. He paused. I saw your interview. It was really inspiring. Thank you, I said, surprised by his kind words. Your mother saw it too, he added quietly. I held my breath, waiting for him to tell me what hurtful things she had said this time. She didn't say much, Dylan continued. But I think seeing you in that nursing uniform, it finally hit her. You're actually doing it, becoming a nurse, just like you always wanted. I pulled into my driveway and left the car running as I let his words sink in. I'm proud of you, Kate, he said softly. And I'm sorry I didn't realize what was really going on sooner. The simple words brought tears to my eyes. Thank you, Dylan, I said. That means a lot. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, grateful, hopeful, and more at peace than I had been in years. I sat quietly for a moment, thinking about how much had changed in less than a year. The trophy I won for real estate now sat on my shelf beside my nursing textbooks, a clear reminder of both what I had achieved and where I was headed. My mom and I still weren't speaking, but I had made peace with that. I no longer looked for approval from someone who couldn't give it. Instead, I found pride in my own progress, in the patients who thanked me, in the moments I felt confident in my work, and in the recognition I received for pushing through hard times. As I walked into my home, my safe space, I smiled at the stack of nursing journals on the coffee table. Tonight, I would study for next week's exam. Maybe I'd call Samantha later to catch up. Tomorrow, I had 2 property showings between classes. My life was full, meaningful, and finally mine. The call from Dylan had been a nice surprise, a moment of kindness I hadn't expected. But even without it, I was happy. Whether or not my mother ever accepted my choices no longer shaped who I was. I had taken back control of my life, my future, and most importantly, my self-worth. And as I sat down to study, I knew that was the biggest win of all. "You can't sit here," my older cousin Kayla said with a smirk as I pulled out a chair at the far end of the wedding reception hall. "That's the kids' table." Everyone nearby laughed. It wasn't just the little kids at the table who found it funny. Even my own mom laughed. My aunt chuckled too. From the head table, my sister looked over and gave me that tight little smile she always wore when something embarrassing happened to me. She looked proud of my discomfort. "Before I go on, tell me honestly, what would you do in this situation? Drop a comment and let me know." I read everyone. Now back to the story. I stood there, not sure what to do. My heels, which I bought from a secondhand store, were already hurting my feet. The blue dress I had on was old and faded. I had borrowed it from a kind neighbor and did some small sewing to make it fit. Under the bright lights of a hall, I suddenly felt like everyone could see how cheap everything I wore was. I felt small. I felt ashamed. Still, I gave a weak smile and said, "There are no other seats." Kayla just shrugged. "You should have RSVP'd with someone," she said. "Or at least worn something that didn't look like it came from the donation bin." My mom didn't defend me. Instead, she whispered loudly enough for half the table to hear, "She can't even afford a real dress." The other people at the table leaned in, clearly enjoying the moment. Her words stung like little sharp needles. I felt each one, but I didn't respond. I sat down quietly, my head lowered. If I spoke, I would cry. And if I cried, they would enjoy it even more. They were already winning. Then something happened. "Excuse me," a deep, calm voice said from nearby. It was clear and confident, cutting through the laughter. I looked up. Standing next to me was a man in a perfect black suit. He looked like he had stepped out of a magazine. It was Mason Thames, the CEO of Thames Aerospace. He was famous. I had seen him on TV and in business magazines. He was on lists like top entrepreneurs under 36. He was rich, smart, and successful. He looked right at me and asked, "Is this seat taken?" For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Everyone else went quiet. The laughter stopped. Kayla's smirk faded. My mom looked shocked. My sister's proud little smile disappeared. I had no idea why someone like Mason Thames would want to sit next to me. But in that moment, something changed. Not just in the room, but in me too. I lifted my head and smiled. Not a fake smile, but a real one. "No," I said. "It's all yours." And just like that, everything started to feel different. I thought I was seeing things. Maybe I was dreaming. But then something happened that made my heart stop. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood two tall men in dark suits. They looked serious, clearly his security team. The whole room went quiet. Kayla's wine glass hit the table with a soft clink. Everyone turned to look. Even my mom, who had just been laughing at me, went completely still. "Mason," I stammered, trying to understand what was happening. "What are you doing here?" He smiled at me, kind and a little playful. "I was looking for a seat," he said. "But more importantly, I came for you, Judy." He said my name like it meant something important. Then, without looking at anyone else, he pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. He acted like this was totally normal, like he belonged there, and even more surprising, like I belonged there too. You could feel the change in the air. People were holding their breath. No one said a word. And then came the moment I will never forget. Mason reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a small black velvet box. He placed it gently on the table in front of me. The room went even more silent. It was like everyone had frozen. "Let's not do this here," I whispered, suddenly nervous. My face was hot. My hands were shaking. I hadn't told him about the wedding. I didn't think he'd show up. But Mason didn't seem bothered. He just gave a little laugh. "I don't care about the place," he said. "I care about you. And I think it's time everyone else knows that." Then he stood up again, still holding the little box. He turned to face the front of the room, where my sister, the bride, was sitting, sipping champagne with a smirk on her face. "Sorry to interrupt," Mason said loudly but politely. But I'm here for Judy. Gasps echoed around the room. Aunt Tiffany dropped her fork. My mom looked like she was about to faint. Mason opened the box, but it wasn't a ring. Inside was a sleek, black metal card with a gold T on it.
It was a private account card.
I had heard about it once. His chief financial officer had joked that it could buy a Fountain Square penthouse with just one swipe. I believe in supporting smart people, Mason said, his eyes locked on mine. And Judy, she's the smartest woman I know. She's starting her own nonprofit, and I'm going to fund it. I stared at him, speechless. We hadn't even talked about this recently. I never sent him the full idea. My mother had her hand on her chest. My sister looked like she had just seen a ghost. Then Mason smiled at the room. So, he said, if this seat is still open. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone already knew what he meant. I think I'll stay right here, Mason said with a calm smile. And just like that, everything changed. The same people who had been laughing at me just minutes before were now completely silent. Some looked nervous. Some looked shocked. No one moved. Not even the band. The violin players froze, their bows still in the air like they were too surprised to keep playing. The room felt heavy and still. I stared down at the black card Mason had placed in front of me. My hands were shaking as I touched the smooth tablecloth. I looked up at him, still trying to understand what was going on. Why was he here? Why now? Mason Thames was not someone who liked attention. He wasn't the kind of man who made big, flashy entrances. He was known for being calm, smart, and in control. So what made him show up like this at my sister's wedding? Then, my mother broke the silence. Her voice was high-pitched and shaky. Is this some kind of joke? She asked, clearly upset. Mason turned to her. He didn't look angry. He didn't even look surprised. He just looked at her the way someone might look at a stranger who had interrupted their thoughts. You must be Mrs. Greer, he said in a calm voice. I am her mother, she snapped. And I don't know what you think you're doing, but we don't need your little show here. I felt a lump rise in my throat. I wanted to speak, but before I could say anything, she cut me off. You really think showing up with some rich boyfriend makes you important? She said loudly. You're still the same girl who barely got through community college. Still working part-time at that old library with no air conditioning. That hurt. But before I could feel too embarrassed, Mason stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look angry. He simply spoke in a strong, clear tone. She's also the woman who helped scan and organize over 15,000 old records by hand. She taught reading classes on the weekends. She helped her neighbor's son, who has autism, without asking for anything in return. And she wrote a proposal so good, I said yes to funding it before I even finished reading it. My chest felt tight. My eyes burned. He wasn't just standing up for me. He saw me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't just trying to survive, I was finally standing tall. My mother looked embarrassed now. Her face was turning red. She muttered, You don't know what kind of girl she is. She's not who you think. She's not classy. She's not like them. She pointed toward my sister and her new husband. Mason looked at her and smiled. Exactly, he said. She's better. And in that moment, I believed it too. I don't know what upset my sister more, the insult Mason gave her, or the sound of people clapping from the back of the room. It wasn't loud, but it was there. A few guests at distant tables, even some people from the groom's side, had seen everything. The servers had paused too. Everyone was watching. I heard soft whispers floating through the room. Isn't that Mason Thames? Isn't he worth, like, $700 million? Who's the girl with him? And just like that, everything changed. I wasn't the girl in the second-hand dress anymore. I wasn't the one sitting at the kids' table, trying not to cry. I wasn't the family disappointment.
No.
I was someone worth noticing. Someone worth standing up for. Let's go, Mason said quietly. He reached out his hand toward me. I can't just leave, I whispered, unsure if my legs would even move. Yes, you can, he said softly. You don't owe them a single second more. I stood up. The silence in the room was heavy, like everyone was holding their breath. Every step I took next to Mason felt loud, like thunder against the floor. Then I heard it, my sister's voice, sharp and angry. "Wait," she shouted. We turned. She was red in the face, her body shaking. "You can't just walk out like that. This is my day." Mason looked at her for just a moment. "Then maybe next time," he said calmly. "Don't start it by embarrassing the wrong person." My sister opened her mouth, then shut it again. Her new husband stood beside her, frozen, like he didn't know what to do. Then Mason reached into his jacket one last time. He pulled out a white envelope and handed it to the wedding coordinator. "Please give this to the venue manager," he said. "This will cover the rest of tonight's costs." Gasps filled the room again. Then he turned to me. "Ready?" I nodded. As we walked past the table that once made fun of me, I didn't look back. But I heard my mother whisper, barely loud enough to catch. What have we done?" Outside, the car waiting wasn't some fancy, rented limo. It was Mason's personal Tesla Model X, midnight silver with a smooth, matte finish. The windows were dark like black glass. The driver opened the door, and Mason helped me in gently, like I was someone important. Not the girl everyone used to ignore. When the door closed, and the world outside faded, I finally let out a long breath. The tears came, not from sadness, but from feeling seen. Really seen. I didn't cry loudly. Just soft, quiet tears slipping down my cheeks. I wasn't crying because I was broken. I was crying because someone finally chose me. Someone who didn't care about where I came from or how much money I had. He just saw me. Mason didn't say anything at first. He just held my hand, firm and calm. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't expect you to come. I didn't want you to see me like that," I said softly, looking out the window. Mason turned to me, his voice calm and steady. "Like what? Brave? Graceful? Patient? Even when they didn't deserve your kindness?" I let out a small, bitter laugh. More like embarrassed. That dress I was wearing? It cost me $18 at a thrift store. And that table they stuck me at, it wasn't even set up right. No name cards, no real napkins. Just some old forks and a plastic vase. Mason leaned back slightly and looked at me with quiet respect. "And yet, you still sat there. You didn't yell. You didn't make a scene. Judy, I've been in rooms full of powerful people, billionaires even, and they didn't have half the calm you showed tonight." His words were kind, but they hurt in a way I didn't expect. Maybe because no one had ever spoken to me like that before. "I've always been the invisible one," I said, my voice shaking. My sister was the perfect one. Straight A's, private school, magazine engagement announcements. And me? I was the extra. The one they'd say, "Oh, her." I wiped my eyes. "I've been living on cheap noodles and tutoring kids just to pay rent." Mason didn't say anything. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. And every time I tried to do something that mattered, like my reading program, they'd laugh at me. Say stuff like, "You think books are going to change the world?" They never came to my graduation. Not even once. My mom even told me, "You're not meant for the spotlight." Finally, Mason spoke. She was wrong. He pulled out his phone, tapped on the screen, and then turned it toward me. It was my nonprofit proposal. The one I had stayed up nights working on. My dream to build reading centers in poor neighborhoods. I hadn't even sent him the finished version yet. On the screen was a number. A big one with 6 zeros. "I'm giving you full funding," he said. "And a team to help you. You don't need anyone else's approval now." My eyes widened. But I haven't finished everything yet. The paperwork isn't done. The plan isn't perfect. I haven't. "You have the heart," Mason said, gently cutting me off. "You have the idea. That's more than most people. I'll help you find the rest." We sat in silence for a moment. Then something inside me shifted. Not in a painful way. It wasn't breaking. It felt like something was finally opening up. "Why me?" I whispered. Mason looked at me with the softest expression I'd ever seen. "Because I've seen you," he said. "All those days you thought no one was paying attention, I was. And for the first time in a long time, I believed someone meant it." "I was there," Mason said gently. At that charity event where you brought handmade books. I saw you at the literacy rally too, when your hands were shaking, but your message stayed strong. You've always stood tall, even in small rooms, he continued. It's time the world sees what I've seen in you all along. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in years, I believed someone when they said I mattered. When they said I was enough. Mason leaned in just a little, not close enough to make me uncomfortable, just enough to show he cared. Can I take you somewhere? He asked. Where? I asked, my voice soft. To show you just how wrong they were about you. How much they underestimated you, he said. Before I could respond, the car started moving. And just like that, I wasn't just leaving the wedding, I was stepping into something new. A new chapter. A new life. At first, the car ride was quiet. Not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much to feel. My hands were still shaking a little. My thoughts bounced between shock, hope, and relief. I kept looking at the envelope Mason had given the wedding coordinator. He had paid for the entire reception. Not to brag. Not to show off. He did it to stop the cruelty, to remind them all that kindness still matters. City lights blinked past the windows as the car turned onto a quiet street. We pulled into a long driveway, lined with tall green bushes and small glowing lights. The gate opened silently as we rolled forward. This is my place in Fountain Square, Mason said in a calm voice. I thought you could rest here for a while, just to get away from everything. The car stopped in front of a modern glass house. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't showy. It felt peaceful. Everything about it matched Mason. Quiet, calm, thoughtful. I started, but he gently stopped me. You need a moment, he said, just to remember who you really are. You've been giving so much, running on empty for too long. I followed him inside. Right away, I felt warm. The air smelled like cedar and soft vanilla. The lighting was gentle, and the place felt like a safe hug. Then I saw something that took my breath away. Photos. Not of Mason alone, but of me. Pictures I didn't know existed. One of me 3 years ago, standing in the rain on a sidewalk, handing out flyers for my reading program. Another showed me at the school where I volunteered, holding a pile of old books patched together with tape. My knees almost gave out. You had these? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper.
He nodded.
You inspired me long before you even knew my name. And in that moment I realized something. He hadn't just shown up for me today. He had been seeing me all along. We sat on the couch together, and I let the quiet stretch between us. I didn't want to ruin the moment, but one question had been sitting in my heart since the wedding. I finally turned to Mason and asked it. Why did you come today? You never said you would. I didn't even invite you. Mason looked straight at me. His voice was soft, but steady. I saw the RSVP list, he said. They listed you as Judy Greer, no guest. That told me everything I needed to know. They were setting you up. I've seen it before. The way some families treat the ones who don't fit their perfect image. My throat felt tight. I looked down, but Mason kept speaking. So I decided if they wanted a show, I'd give them one, but not to get back at them.
For you.
To show them who you really are. I nearly broke down right then. I didn't even know how to take in what he was saying. Someone had actually chosen me. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Mason stood up and pulled out a thin laptop from his briefcase. I have something else to show you, he said. He opened the laptop and pulled up a website, Indianapolis Civic Media. My photo was on the front page. Not from the wedding, but from earlier that week. The headline read, "The Woman Reviving Literacy, One Block at a Time." I stared at the screen, not believing it. I pitched your story, Mason said with a smile. They've been searching for someone to feature in their Change Agents campaign. I sent them your stats, your work, and a few of those photos. You're joking, I said, my voice barely a whisper. They sent me the draft this morning. It goes live at midnight. I looked again. My photo. My words. My mission. And in that moment, something inside me changed. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't just someone in the background. I was the story. When I woke up the next morning in Mason's guest room, The sunlight was pouring through the soft curtains. The white sheets were warm around me, and for a second, I thought maybe it had all been a dream. But the laptop was still open on the desk. My face was still on the front page. The headline was real, and so was everything that came next. By 8:35 a.m., I had 159 unread emails. By 9:10 a.m., producers from 3 national morning shows had contacted me. By 10:55 a.m., I was trending on Twitter. Hashtag Judy the Reader. Hashtag Change Agent. Hashtag From Kids Table to Heroin. But none of that prepared me for what happened at 11:25 a.m.
My phone rang.
It was my mother. I stared at it and let it ring. A minute later, a text from my sister popped up. Please, we need to talk. Mom is freaking out. What the hell is going on? Mason? I just looked at the message. I didn't reply. For the first time ever, they weren't in control of the story.
I was.
Mason and I were already on the way to the TV studio. I had agreed to do a short interview about my nonprofit work. On the ride there, I turned to him and asked the question that had been sitting in my heart all morning. Should I go see them? He looked at me for a moment, thinking carefully. Then he said, only if you're doing it for yourself. Not for closure. Not for their approval. You don't need their version of sorry. You already won. I nodded, but deep down, a part of me still wanted to look them in the eyes. I wanted to see if they understood. If they finally saw me. After the interview ended, I asked the driver to take a different route. We pulled up in front of my parents' house, the same small brick home where I had grown up hearing the same message over and over again. Dreams were too expensive for people like us. Hope was for other families, not ours. I got out of the car and walked to the front door. I knocked. The door swung open quickly, almost like they had been waiting. My mom stood there, pale and shaking. My dad was behind her. My sister stood off to the side, mascara smudged under her eyes and her phone still in her hand. Judy, my mom whispered, you were on television. I know, I said quietly. My sister stepped closer. Why didn't you tell us you knew him? I didn't think it mattered to you, I replied. Well, she snapped, it does now. We didn't mean to make you feel small, my mom added. We just thought you were the quiet one, the bookworm. You never seemed to want the spotlight. No, I said, looking her straight in the eye. You just never let me have it. She reached out and tried to take my hand. Judy, the things we said at the wedding, we were just joking. You know how families are. Do you? I asked softly. Because a real family doesn't laugh at you when you're hurting. A real family doesn't tear you down in front of strangers. A real family doesn't call your dreams a waste of time. Tears spilled down her face. Then, something I never thought I'd see happened. She dropped to her knees on the porch. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice barely a whisper. We were wrong. We were so wrong. My dad, a man of few words, slowly lowered himself beside her. It was like the shame was too heavy to carry any longer. Even my sister sat down on the steps, head in her hands. They didn't cry just for me. They cried for all the moments they missed. For the version of me they never tried to know. Mason was waiting by the car. I didn't stay long. Just long enough to say, I forgive you, but I won't forget. Then I left. Because the girl they once laughed at was gone. In her place stood a woman with strength, purpose, and peace. And I knew, after all this time, I would never be invisible again. If this story touched you even a little, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And don't forget to subscribe. If you've ever felt this kind of hurt, just know you're not alone. I walked into the big law office, my heart beating fast. The air felt heavy. My parents were already sitting there, both of them smiling like they had already won. My father, Jacob, leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed. He looked sure of himself, like he knew what was coming. My mother, Kelly, looked at me with that same cold look she always gave me. She had never treated me like I mattered. I was the child they never wanted, the daughter who never made them proud. But I didn't care. Today wasn't about them. Today was about my Aunt Lauren. Lauren was the only one who had ever shown me love. When my parents laughed at my dreams or told me I wasn't good enough, Lauren was the one who believed in me. She always said, "Danielle, you have something they'll never understand, a kind heart." Now I stood there, watching the same people who had always looked down on me act like they deserved everything Lauren owned. The lawyer, an older man with glasses, cleared his throat and moved some papers around. "Let's begin. As you know, Miss Lauren had gathered a large amount of wealth. Her total assets were around $20 million. My father grinned and gave my mother a nudge. "I told you, Kelly. It's ours." I felt a lump in my throat. I knew they never truly cared about Lauren. They only kept her around because of her money. And now they were sure they were going to get it all. The lawyer fixed his glasses and said, "Before we go further, I need to read a personal letter from Miss Lauren." He opened a folded piece of paper and started reading. "To my dear niece, Danielle." My mother let out a loud sigh. "Oh, please." The lawyer glanced at her, but kept reading. "I have watched you grow into a strong, kind, and honest woman. I've always admired you, even when others did not. I made my choice long ago, and I have no regrets. My money is not for those who choose greed over love. My fortune will go to the only person I trust to use it well, Danielle." Silence filled the room. It was so quiet it felt hard to breathe. Then my father jumped up from his seat, his face turning red with anger. "What?" he shouted. My mother gasped and grabbed the arms of her chair like she might fall. This must be a mistake." I sat there, not moving. Did I really hear that right? Lauren left everything to me? Before I could think, my father reached across the table and grabbed my wrist. His nails dug into my skin. "You ungrateful brat," he growled. "This was supposed to be ours." Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to cry. He pulled me out of my seat and shoved me toward the door. "You think you deserve this?" he yelled, his voice shaking with rage. "You're just a foolish girl. You wouldn't even know what to do with that kind of money." "Jacob, stop it," the lawyer said firmly. But my father didn't listen. He held me by the shoulders, his grip tight, and then did something I never thought he would. He threw me out, right there, in front of everyone. I stumbled and almost fell on the cold marble floor. People gasped. Even my mother looked shocked. But she didn't try to stop him. Then he said, in the cruelest voice, "You are nothing without us." The lawyer's voice cut through the tension, sharp and serious. "Mr. Jacob, I suggest you sit down before you do something you'll regret." I looked up, my eyes blurry with tears that hadn't fallen. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't weak. I was finished with them. They had no idea what was coming. I took a deep breath and stood tall, swallowing the lump in my throat. My father's words rang in my ears, but they no longer had power over me. The lawyer cleared his throat again and looked straight at my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Paul, I strongly suggest you calm down. There's more in this will you need to hear." My father let out a bitter laugh. "More? What more could there possibly be?" His face was still red. His fists were clenched by his sides. He looked like someone who had just been robbed in the middle of the day. The lawyer gave him a look filled with disappointment, then kept going. "Miss Lauren knew this might happen. She knew how you would react, Mr. Paul, and she left one final message." He picked up another page and read in a calm, steady voice. "To Jacob and Kelly Paul, I know you came here thinking you could take something you never earned. I know your greed has no limits. That's why I've left you exactly what you deserve. Nothing." My mother gasped. My father looked like someone had slapped him. "But we're her family," my mother said, her voice shaking. The lawyer didn't respond. He just kept reading. "Also, I made sure that neither of you can fight this will. If you try to, every single dollar will go to charity, and you will not get a single penny." That was it. The final blow. My parents fell back into their chairs. All the color drained from their faces. My father opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I took a deep breath and stood up tall. For the first time, I wasn't the one being hurt by them. I faced them and said clearly, "You always told me I was nothing, that I didn't matter. But look at this. I'm the one Aunt Lauren trusted. Not you. My father jumped up again, his hands shaking with anger. You little. That's enough, the lawyer said, standing up. Mr. Paul, if you can't behave, I'll have to ask you to leave. For once, my father said nothing. I turned toward the door. Just before I stepped out, I looked back. My father wasn't sneering anymore. My mother's proud face had fallen. They didn't look powerful now. They just looked like two greedy, empty people who had lost everything. And for the first time, I walked away knowing I didn't owe them anything. I stepped out of the law office, my breathing shaky but steady. My father's angry words, his cruel smile, his betrayal, it was all still fresh in my mind. But something new had taken the place of the pain. A quiet, strong fire was growing inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't under their control. I wasn't the scared little girl they used to push around. Aunt Lauren had given me more than money. She had given me freedom. I pulled my coat tighter as the cold wind brushed my face. I had just inherited $20 million, but I stood alone in the middle of the city with no one I could truly call family. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I paused for a moment. There was one person who had always stood by me, my best friend Catherine. She had supported me through all the awful things my parents did. If anyone deserved to know what had just happened, it was her. Before I could dial her number, the heavy doors of the law office burst open behind me. I turned around just in time to see my father storming out, his face full of rage. You listen to me, Danielle, he shouted, his voice cutting through the cold air. You think this changes anything? You're still the same foolish little girl who doesn't understand how the world works. I clenched my fists but kept my voice calm.
No, Dad.
I'm not foolish anymore. I see the truth now. He let out a cold, bitter laugh. And what truth is that? That you're a man who lost everything because you were greedy. His jaw tightened. You don't deserve that money. Neither do you, I said, looking him straight in the eye. His nostrils flared, and he was about to yell something else when my mother came rushing out. She grabbed his arm. Jacob, let's go. We need to think about what to do next. That was it. They had lost. And now, for the first time, they were feeling what it meant to face the results of their own choices. I turned and started walking down the sidewalk. My heart beat faster with every step. I was free. I got back to my apartment and my head was spinning. I sat on the couch and stared at the ceiling. $20 million. It didn't feel real. But I knew this wasn't just about money. Now I had power. I had a choice. I could let the money change me and become like my parents. Or I could use it to do something good. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Catherine. Hey Danielle, I just heard what happened. Are you okay? I smiled a little. Her message was full of care. I think so. It's just a lot, I replied.
Well, yeah.
You just inherited a fortune. So what are you going to do first? Buy a mansion? A yacht? Oh, maybe a personal chef. I laughed and shook my head. I don't know, Catherine. I don't think I want to go on a shopping spree. She was quiet for a second. Then she asked, Then what do you want to do? I leaned back and let out a slow breath. I want to help people. Aunt Lauren was the only one who ever treated me kindly. I think I want to carry that forward. Catherine's voice softened. I think she'd be proud of you. I smiled again. Yeah, I think so too. The next morning, I woke up to a bunch of missed calls from my parents. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I called the lawyer. Mr. Scott, I said when he picked up. I want to start making some changes. He chuckled. I had a feeling you would. What are you thinking? I thought about all the times I felt alone. All the nights I cried because my own parents made me feel like I didn't matter. I want to start a foundation, I said clearly, for kids who come from toxic families. A place where they can feel safe, get help with school, and start over. There was a pause, and then I heard the smile in his voice. Miss Paul, I think that's a wonderful idea. I knew it wouldn't be long before my parents did something desperate. And I was right. That evening, there was a loud, frantic knock on my door. I didn't need to check the peephole. I already knew who it was. I waited for a moment, then opened the door. My mother stood there. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of fear. My father stood behind her, looking just as lost. The pride and arrogance they once carried were gone. "Danielle," my mother whispered, "we need to talk." I crossed my arms. "Oh, about what?" "How you threw me out. How you tried to take something that was never yours." My father clenched his jaw. "We made a mistake." I let out a cold laugh.
No.
"A mistake is spilling coffee. What you did was betray your own daughter." My mother grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin.
Please, Danielle.
"We have nothing left." I stared at her, not moved. "And whose fault is that?" Tears filled her eyes. "We're still your parents." "No," I said, keeping my voice firm. "You stopped being my parents the moment you threw me away." Then I saw it, the look in their eyes. They knew they had lost me for good. My father, the man who once seemed so strong and unshakable, now looked small, weak, and desperate. And it was all because of what they had done. I stepped back. "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad." And I closed the door. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying everything. How fast my life had changed, the choices I had made. And then it hit me. I had power now. Not just money, but emotional power too. I could let them suffer, the way they let me suffer. Or I could do something they never did for me. I could show them mercy. The next morning I called my lawyer. "I want to set up a trust," I said.
For whom? He asked.
I let out a sigh. "For my parents." There was a long pause. "Are you sure about that, Miss Paul?" I nodded to myself.
Yes.
"But only under one condition." "And what's that?" "They get a small allowance. Just enough to live. But they can't control it. They can't touch the trust or try to take more." The lawyer chuckled. "You really are your aunt's niece." I smiled quietly. Maybe I didn't do it because they deserved it. Maybe I did it because I was finally free. I deserved peace. And the best part was knowing that the same daughter they once called naive was now the only reason they weren't living on the street. That was the real revenge. Not by being cruel, not by making them suffer, but by being kind. Because kindness was something they could never understand. And that, to me, was true justice. After I set up the trust fund for my parents, I felt something I hadn't felt before, a sense of closure. I didn't forgive them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But they couldn't hurt me anymore. That was enough. I sat in my new office, a small space I had rented for my foundation. It wasn't much. The walls were empty, and the furniture was simple. But the dream was real, and it was just beginning. Catherine sat across from me, smiling wide. "I still can't believe you did that," she said. "Did what?" I asked. "Set up a trust for them. After everything they did to you." She shook her head like she couldn't understand it. "I would have let them suffer." I let out a breath and leaned back in my chair. "That's just it, Catherine. If I let them suffer, I become like them. And I won't let them have that kind of control over me." She looked at me for a moment, then smiled. "You're a better person than I am." I laughed. Or maybe just a smarter one. We both laughed, but deep down I knew why I really did it.
I didn't do it for them.
I did it for me. A few days passed. I focused completely on my foundation. I met with money experts, charity workers, and social workers. Everything was coming together. Then one afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before picking up. "Hello," I said. A rough voice came through the phone, one I knew too well. "Danielle." I froze. "Dad." There was silence, then a deep breath. "We need to meet." I let out a dry laugh. "No, we don't. Please." I frowned. My father had never begged before. Even though I knew it wasn't a good idea, I agreed to meet him. We sat at a quiet cafe, far from the fancy places my parents used to visit. He looked different now, tired, worn out, smaller. He tapped his fingers on the table, staring at me like he was really seeing me for the first time. "What do you want?" I asked, not wasting time. He let out a sigh. Your mother, she's having a hard time with all this. She thinks maybe we can fix things. I tilted my head. And what do you think? His eyes darkened. I think you've made a mistake. I felt anger rise in my chest. Excuse me? You think you've won, Danielle, he said, his voice calm but cold. You think that just because you have money you're safe. I narrowed my eyes. Are you threatening me? He gave a small smirk. I'm just saying, money doesn't erase family. I leaned in, keeping my voice steady. You're right. It doesn't. But it does erase your control over me. His smirk faded. I stood up. This conversation is over. As I walked away, he called after me, his voice sharp. You may have everything now, Danielle. But don't forget where you came from. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. The days passed. I kept busy with my foundation, working hard. But my father's words stayed in the back of my mind, like a shadow I couldn't shake. Then one night my phone rang. It was Catherine. Hey, she said carefully, I don't want to scare you, but I think you need to see this. She sent me a link. I opened it and froze. The headline read, Billionaire heiress Danielle Paul accused of stealing family fortune. My heart dropped. I clicked the article. My parents had gone to the media. They were saying I tricked my aunt, that I forced her to change the will, that I stole what should have been theirs. Catherine's voice came through gently. This is bad, Danielle. I clenched my fists. No, Catherine. This isn't just bad. This is war. I grabbed my phone and called Mr. Scott, my lawyer. I saw the article, Mr. Scott said before I could speak. Don't worry. It's all lies. They don't have any legal ground. That doesn't mean they won't ruin my name, I said quietly. He sighed. There's one thing we can do. We could sue them for defamation. I paused. Did I really want to take this to court and make it more public?
No.
I didn't want more drama. I just wanted it to end quietly. I have a better idea, I said. I decided to fight back using the truth. I contacted a trusted journalist, someone with a good name. I gave them every bit of proof I had. Messages, letters, recordings of my parents yelling at me, calling me names. I didn't want to destroy them. I just wanted people to know the truth. A week later, the article was published. The dark truth behind the Paul fortune, a daughter's fight for justice. The internet went wild. People turned against my parents right away. Their image was ruined. Just like that, the power they held over me and over everyone was gone. I met them one last time. They were sitting in a hotel lobby, both looking pale and nervous. My father glared at me. You've humiliated us. I crossed my arms.
No.
You humiliated yourselves. My mother started crying. We just wanted to use me. I cut in. To control me. They didn't say anything. I looked at them one last time and spoke calmly. I gave you a chance. I gave you a trust fund, a way to live. But if you ever try to hurt me again, I will take that away too. My father clenched his jaw, but he didn't argue. He knew it was over. I turned and walked away. And this time I didn't look back. With them out of my life, I finally put my full heart into what really mattered, my foundation. A few months later, we opened our first shelter. I stood in the front lobby, watching as young people came in, looking for a safe place. One girl, maybe 17, stood at the door, unsure. I walked over and gave her a kind smile. Hey, what's your name? She looked up, her eyes full of fear.
Catherine, she said softly.
You're safe here, Catherine, I said gently. Tears filled her eyes. Really? I nodded. Really? She burst into tears and cried on my shoulder. At that moment, I knew I had truly won, not because of the money, not because I got revenge, but because I chose to be better. The next few weeks moved fast. The foundation grew quickly, thanks to all the support we got after the article about my parents. Donations came in from everywhere. People reached out offering to help. I was so busy building something good that I barely thought about my parents anymore. I had moved on. But one morning, while I was reviewing plans for a second shelter, an email popped up. Subject: You won, but at what cost? I paused before opening it. It was from my father. You think you destroyed us. You didn't. You just made sure we'll never get back up. You turned us into the bad guys when we should have been the heroes. Enjoy your money, Danielle. But just know this, you're alone now. And money can't fix that. I stared at the screen. My chest felt tight. For a second, I almost believed him. Then I heard Catherine's voice behind me.
Hey.
You okay? I turned and saw her standing in the doorway, concern in her eyes. I let out a breath.
Yeah.
Just my dad again, trying to make me feel bad. She rolled her eyes. Classic. Let me guess, now he's acting like he's the victim? I gave a short laugh. Pretty much. She sat across from me and crossed her arms. You know he's wrong, right? You're not alone. I looked at her, really looked at her. Catherine had been more of a family to me than my parents ever were. I smiled. I know. And just like that, the heavy feeling in my chest went away. One afternoon, I was finishing some paperwork for the foundation's expansion when the receptionist called me. Miss Paul, someone's here to see you. I frowned. Who is it? There was a pause. She says she's your mother. My heart skipped a beat. After everything, why would she come now? I walked to the front lobby, my heels tapping on the floor. My mind was spinning. Then I saw her. Kelly Paul. Once full of pride and control, now looked tired and worn out. Her clothes were neat, but old. Her face looked thinner than I remembered. Mom, I said, my voice colder than I meant. She turned to me, her eyes searching mine. Danielle. I crossed my arms. What do you want? She swallowed hard. Can we talk? I sighed and led her to a small meeting room. She sat down across from me, fidgeting with her hands, something I had never seen her do. Why are you here? I asked. She looked unsure. Then, in a soft voice, she whispered, I don't know who I am without the money. I blinked. That was not what I expected. She looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something real in her eyes, regret. I spent so many years thinking money made me special, she said quietly. That power made me matter. She looked down at her hands. Now I have nothing, and it's scary. I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. I never meant to hurt you, she said, her voice shaky. But I did. I was weak. I let your father treat you badly, and I never stopped him. And now, I don't even know how to make things right. I watched her carefully. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. Mom, I said softly, what do you want from me? She looked up, eyes full of tears she hadn't let fall. I don't know. I just wanted to see you. I sighed. You can't undo the past. And I'm not going to pretend it never happened. She nodded, her lips shaking. But I continued. If you really want to change, you'll have to show it. Her breath caught.
How?
I leaned in a little. Do something good. Not for me. For someone else. Find a reason to live that isn't about money. If you can do that, maybe we can talk again someday. She wiped her eyes and nodded. Okay. As she left, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel like I had won. I felt something I didn't expect, a small spark of hope. A few months passed. My foundation was growing. We opened a second shelter, and our programs were helping more and more young people leave toxic homes and build new lives. Then one evening, Catherine rushed into my office, holding her phone. You're not going to believe this, she said, showing me the screen. I looked at the headline. Former socialite Kelly Paul spotted volunteering at local soup kitchen. I blinked in surprise. What? Catherine smirked. Looks like she actually listened to you. I let out a slow breath, unsure of how I felt. Had my mother really changed? I didn't know, but for the first time in my life, I was willing to find out. One rainy afternoon, I stood in front of Aunt Lauren's grave. I placed a bunch of white lilies on the stone and ran my fingers over her name. Hey, Lauren, I whispered. I hope I've made you proud. The wind blew gently through the trees, and for the first time in a long while, I felt calm. I had spent so much of my life searching for love in the wrong places. But now I understood. Family isn't always about blood. It's about the people who stay when everything falls apart. And I wasn't alone. I never really had been alone. A year later, my foundation had become something bigger, a movement. I stood on stage at our yearly gala, looking out at the people who now felt like family. Catherine, my team, the young people we had helped, they were all there. I took a deep breath and held the microphone. When I was younger, I said, I thought power meant having money. I thought status was everything. But now I know real power is kindness. The crowd clapped and cheered, but I wasn't doing it for attention. I was doing it because I had finally found my purpose. And as I stepped off that stage, I knew I had truly won, not with money, not with revenge, but by becoming the one thing they never wanted me to be.
Free.
I'm sorry, but your kids just wouldn't know how to survive in the wild, my sister-in-law Kelly said with a fake sweet voice during our usual family dinner. This camping trip is only for people who are really used to the outdoors. I looked at my children, Christina, who is 12, and Dylan, who is 10. Both of them sat quietly, their shoulders dropping and faces full of sadness. This wasn't the first time Kelly had left us out of a family plan. My husband Noah was out of town for work, so I was the only one there to deal with her rude comments. Trying to stay calm, I picked up my fork and said, my kids have been taking wilderness survival classes for a year now. They actually know quite a bit about being outdoors. Kelly laughed, her voice sharp and annoying. Oh, please, a few little classes don't turn city kids into campers. This is real camping, no bathrooms, no power, just nature. We're going to Silver Pine Campground. I almost choked on my water. Silver Pine? Of all places, they had to choose that one? Kelly kept going, acting like she didn't notice my reaction. We've already planned it all. It'll be me, Peter, our kids, Mom and Dad, and Cousin Megan's family. It's going to be the perfect outdoor adventure. Perfect, I thought, forcing a smile. I pictured the paper hidden in my home office, my grandfather's property deed. He had left Silver Pine Campground to me 6 years ago before he passed away. It was his pride and joy, 250 acres of beautiful, untouched land that he had spent years turning into a peaceful nature retreat. He had given it to me, his only grandchild who loved nature just as much as he did. No one else in the family knew. Grandpa had made sure to keep it a secret because he knew how greedy some of them could be. I had stayed quiet about it, letting a management company take care of the place while I funded upgrades and repairs in the background. Well, if you're really sure we can't join you, I said, pretending to be disappointed. Kelly's smile stretched even wider. She patted my hand like I was some clueless child. It's really for the best, she said. We don't want your kids to feel out of place, or worse, get hurt because they don't know what they're doing. That night, I tucked Christina and Dylan into bed. They were still feeling sad. I kissed them on the forehead and smiled to myself. They might think we're not invited, but what they don't know is, this trip is happening on my land. And soon, they'll find out just how well my city kids can handle the wilderness. I tucked Christina and Dylan into bed that night. I could still see the sadness in their eyes. Christina looked up at me and softly whispered, Mom, we're not really city kids, right? We know about camping, remember all the things great-grandpa taught us. I smiled gently, touched by her words. My mind went back to those special weekends we spent with Grandpa at Silver Pine. We had walked through the woods together, learning how to spot animal tracks, understand weather changes, and identify local plants. He had taught us how to live in nature and respect it. My kids remembered every bit of it. No, sweetheart, I said, stroking her hair. You're not just city kids. You know more than most about the outdoors. And I think it's time we show the family just how much you've learned. The next morning, I got to work. I made 3 important phone calls. First, I called Douglas, the campground manager. He had been my grandfather's right-hand man at Silver Pine for over 22 years. Douglas, I said, the family is planning to camp there next weekend. Let them book it like usual, but I have a few special requests. He agreed, sounding amused but supportive. Next, I called my friend Jacqueline. She ran the local wilderness school where my kids had been learning outdoor skills for the past year. Remember the camping competition you mentioned?
I asked.
Let's host it at Silver Pine. I think the timing is perfect. Throughout the week, Kelly posted nonstop on social media. Her page was full of updates about their exclusive family camping adventure. She tagged everyone who was going, probably just to remind me who was invited and who wasn't. The day before their trip, Kelly called me. Her voice had that fake sweet tone again. Just checking in to see if you're feeling okay about missing the camping trip, she said. Maybe next time we can plan something more your style, like a movie night or maybe a backyard barbecue. I kept my voice calm. Don't worry about us, I replied. We've made our own plans for the weekend. I hope you all have a wonderful time at Silver Pine. Oh, we will, she said, laughing. Peter already packed all our fancy camping gear. It's going to be so Instagram-worthy. What she didn't know was that Silver Pine had very strict camping rules. No luxury RVs, no portable generators, no cell service. Just quiet, peaceful nature. That's the way my grandfather wanted it to stay. Pure, simple, and real. I'm sure it'll be a trip you'll never forget, I told her with a smile, then ended the call. And deep down, I knew she was about to learn what real camping actually looked like. That evening, I sat down with Christina and Dylan in the living room. How would you two like to show off your outdoor skills this weekend? I asked, trying to hide my excitement. Their eyes lit up instantly. They sat up straight, eager to hear more. I explained the plan. The wilderness school is holding a big competition. Kids from all over the state will come to show their survival skills. And guess what? It's going to take place right near where the family is camping. Not too close to bother them, but close enough that they might notice what's going on. Dylan's face brightened. Can I show Aunt Kelly how I start a fire with just sticks? The way Great-Grandpa taught us. Christina chimed in. And can we build the shelter we practiced? The one that kept us warm during the last school trip? I smiled at both of them. They looked so proud and full of energy. After everything being left out, looked down on, ignored, they were still excited to share what they'd learned. You can show them everything, I said. But remember, we're not doing this to prove anything. We're doing it because we love the outdoors just like your great-grandpa did. That's what matters. Later that night, after tucking them into bed, I stood by their wall and looked at a photo. It showed my grandfather standing at the entrance of Silver Pine Campground, smiling with his arms around a younger Christina and Dylan. He had always believed in teaching by doing, not by bragging. I knew he would be proud of what we were planning. I quietly pulled out the old property deed from my desk drawer. My fingers brushed over my grandfather's signature. You were right, Grandpa, I whispered. Some of the best lessons are learned outside, not inside a classroom or behind a screen. The next morning, the air was cool and fresh, perfect weather for camping. From my home office window, I watched as a line of cars pulled into Silver Pine Campground. Kelly's shiny SUV was in front, of course. She always liked being the leader. A text from Douglas, the campground manager, buzzed on my phone. Ma'am, it read, your sister-in-law just threw a fit about the no luxury policy. Said something about being promised premium sites with hookups. I laughed softly. I could just picture Kelly's shocked face when she realized there were no power plugs, no fancy bathrooms, and definitely no internet signal. Stick to the usual rules, Douglas, I replied. No exceptions. Meanwhile, at the other side of the campground, Christina and Dylan were busy helping Jacqueline and the other instructors set up the competition course. They helped organize tools, marked the map area for shelter building, and even tested the fire starting station. They were ready. The whole weekend was about to become something unforgettable for all the right reasons. We arrived at Silver Pine early in the morning, just as the sun was rising. We took a quiet, private road that led to the back of the campground, staying out of sight from the main camping area. Christina and Dylan were full of excitement, bouncing in their seats the entire way. Mom, Christina shouted as she ran ahead to help set up the fire starting station. We can hear Aunt Kelly from here. She's being really loud. Sure enough, Kelly's voice echoed through the trees. What do you mean we can't use generators? She yelled. How am I supposed to charge my phone? This is ridiculous. I shook my head with a small smile and made my way to Jacqueline, who was organizing the event. About 25 kids from different wilderness schools had shown up for the competition. Each of them looked excited and ready to show off what they had learned. Christina and Dylan were already talking with a group of kids, laughing and showing different ways to tie knots. They looked so comfortable, like they belonged there. "Your kids are natural leaders," Jacqueline said, watching them with a proud smile. "They remind me of your grandfather. He would have loved this day." By late morning, we could hear the rest of the family settling into their campsite. I looked through the trees and saw a bit of chaos. Kelly and Peter were clearly struggling. They were used to fancy vacations, not real camping. Kelly's teenage kids were sitting on tree stumps, looking frustrated as they waved their phones in the air, trying to find a signal. Peter was pouring lighter fluid on a pile of wood, trying to get a fire going, something strictly not allowed at Silver Pine. "Fire hazard," Douglas, the campground manager, called out as he rushed over. "No lighter fluid allowed. You'll need to start your fire the traditional way." "This is impossible," Kelly shouted. "How do people live like this?" Just then, the sound of drums echoed through the trees. It was the official signal that the competition was starting. Curious heads turned at the family's campsite as they tried to see what was happening. "Welcome to the first annual Silver Pine Wilderness Challenge," Jacqueline said through a small battery-powered megaphone. "Today, our competitors will show off their outdoor survival skills in honor of the campground's founder." I watched with pride as Christina and Dylan lined up with the others. They looked focused and ready. Christina had her hair tied back in a neat braid and wore the hiking boots her great-grandpa gave her for her last birthday. Dylan stood proudly in his wilderness vest, covered in colorful merit badges. The first challenge was shelter building. "You have 20 minutes, Jacqueline announced, to build a weather-resistant shelter using only natural materials. As the timer began, I could already tell Christina and Dylan were going to shine. I noticed some movement near the family's campsite. A few people were slowly walking over, curious about what was going on. I heard a small voice say loudly, "Mom, those kids are building better tents than ours." It was Megan's youngest child, wide-eyed as they watched Christina and Dylan at work. Christina and Dylan worked like a perfect team with their group. They used everything they had learned through months of practicing. Their shelter came together quickly. It looked strong, well-planned, and ready to handle any weather. "Is that Christina and Dylan?" I heard my mother-in-law say, clearly surprised. "What are they doing here?" The next challenge began. It was time for fire starting, using only traditional methods. No lighters or matches allowed. Dylan stepped up with confidence and showed how to use the bow drill method, just like Grandpa had taught him. Within minutes, he created a small flame and carefully turned it into a real campfire. "But they're city kids," Kelly called out from the side. "How do they even know how to do this?" That's when I turned to face the growing crowd from our family's campsite. "They're not just city kids," I said calmly. "They're their great-grandfather's grandchildren, and they've been learning from the best." Kelly looked shocked. "What do you mean?" she asked. Her face was red, maybe from embarrassment, maybe from frustration, maybe both. Before I could answer, Douglas, the campground manager, walked over holding his clipboard. "Ma'am," he said to Kelly, "I need to speak with the owner about several rule violations at your campsite. Do you know where I can find her?" Everyone turned to look at me. I raised my hand and said, "That would be me." The silence was heavy. Kelly stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. My mother-in-law grabbed her husband's arm, trying to stay steady. Even the teenagers looked up from their phones for the first time. You own Silver Pine?" Kelly finally asked, sounding completely stunned. "Yes," I said, pulling out a folded copy of the property deed. "Grandpa left it to me 6 years ago. He knew how much the kids and I loved it here. We've always respected the land and appreciated real camping. But why didn't you say anything when I was planning this trip?" Kelly asked, her voice softer now. "Would you have believed me?" I replied. "Or would you have thought I was making it up, just like you assumed my kids couldn't handle the outdoors?" Just then, Christina and Dylan's team was announced as the winner of the shelter building challenge. They stepped forward to accept their award, smiling proudly. Their actions said more than any words ever could. "I think we all owe you and the kids an apology," my father-in-law said slowly. Kelly looked uncomfortable but nodded. "We shouldn't have left you out," she admitted. "And we were wrong about the kids." As I watched my children standing tall and proud, I knew Grandpa would have been smiling. The competition would continue tomorrow, but for me, this moment was already a win. I turned to the family and said, "You're welcome to stay and watch. And who knows," I added with a small smile, "maybe the kids could teach you a few things about real camping." The family quietly walked back toward their campsite. They didn't look so confident anymore. I heard Dylan call out playfully, "Hey, Aunt Kelly, want us to show you how to start a fire without lighter fluid?" Sometimes the best kind of revenge isn't about hurting someone back. It's about rising above and showing who you really are. Grandpa always believed in that, and now I truly understood what he meant. The rest of the weekend was nothing like I expected. By Sunday evening, everything had changed. Our family, once so divided, had started to come together. Christina and Dylan, who were left out for being city kids, were now the stars of the campground. "Aunt Kelly, look," Christina said, carefully holding a small handful of berries. She was showing her aunt how to find the safe ones during the foraging challenge. Great-grandpa taught us that the darker ones are usually sweeter. Kelly, who had started the trip dressed in her fancy camping gear, now had dirt on her clothes and leaves in her hair, but for once, she didn't seem to care. She was actually listening, not rolling her eyes or sounding rude. "Your grandfather really taught you all this?" she asked, sounding honestly impressed. Christina nodded. "Mom made sure we kept learning after he passed. We come here almost every weekend to practice." Over at another part of the field, Dylan had gathered a crowd of cousins around him. He was pointing at the sky, showing them how to read cloud shapes to understand the weather. "That's how we know when it might rain," he explained. "You don't need weather apps out here. Nature tells you everything. You just have to pay attention." From a distance, I watched them proudly. My heart felt full. Douglas, the campground manager, came to stand beside me. He held his usual clipboard but didn't speak for a moment. Then he said softly, "Just like your grandfather. He'd be proud, not because they're showing off, but because they're teaching others." He was right. This weekend wasn't about proving Kelly wrong. It had become something more. It was about carrying on Grandpa's legacy, his belief that nature could bring people together and help them see what really matters. That evening, both sides of the family sat around a proper campfire that Dylan had helped build. The mood had changed completely. There was no talk of city kids or outdoor experts. We were just a family now. "I think we learned something big this weekend," my father-in-law said, glancing around the circle. And it wasn't just about camping. Kelly looked up. For the first time, her voice was soft and honest. "I owe all of you an apology," she said, looking at the kids, then at me. "I've been difficult. Not just now, but for a long time." Christina and Dylan simply nodded. They weren't holding on to anger. They were too busy doing what they loved. Kelly smiled. "Maybe we can make this a regular thing. The kids can keep teaching us, and we can finally learn to do this the right way." I thought about Grandpa and the things he used to say. He always believed Silver Pine Campground was a place meant to bring families closer together. As I looked around at everyone sitting by the campfire, I smiled and said, "I think that can still happen." As the stars filled the sky, we all gathered around the fire, sharing stories about Grandpa. I talked about how he used to take me into the woods and teach me about the land, how to respect it, live in it, and learn from it. For the first time ever, the whole family listened. No one interrupted. No one laughed or rolled their eyes. They simply listened with interest. My mother-in-law looked thoughtful. "That's why he left the campground to you," she said quietly. "You understood what it meant to him." The next morning, everyone packed up slowly. Usually, after a family trip, people rushed to leave, eager to get back to their homes and phones. But this time was different. People walked more slowly. They paused to listen to the birds and breathe in the cool, fresh air. The forest didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like a gift. Kelly walked over to me while I helped clean up after the competition. Her voice was soft and sincere.
Thank you, she said.
Not just for this weekend, but for helping me see what I've been missing by being so judgmental. I nodded and accepted her words. It wasn't a full fix, but it was a good beginning. That evening, Noah called. He had just returned from his business trip. Kelly called me, he said, surprised. She actually apologized. What happened out there? I looked at Christina and Dylan. They were curled up on the couch reading their wilderness books, already making plans for the next competition. Let's just say your sister finally saw things differently, I said with a smile. She learned to look past her assumptions. Noah was quiet for a moment. And the campground, he asked, why didn't you ever tell me it was yours? I thought of Grandpa and his gentle wisdom. Some things, I replied, are better shown than told. After the call, I went into my office and looked at the old property deed. This time, I didn't see it as proof of ownership or a way to prove anything. I saw it for what Grandpa wanted it to be, a way to bring people together, to teach real values, and to protect something important for the future. Christina and Dylan were already planning new activities for the next family camping weekend. Their cousins had been messaging them nonstop, excited to learn more. Even Kelly had signed up for a beginner's outdoor skills class. Sometimes the best kind of victory isn't about proving others wrong. It's about helping them see what's truly right. Grandpa always believed that nature had the power to teach. And now, thanks to one honest, eye-opening weekend, everyone else believed it too. The wilderness competition became a monthly tradition at Silver Pine, and every time I saw Kelly helping her kids build a fire or gather berries, I smiled. Life's best lessons really do happen outdoors. I always knew my sister would try to ruin my dreams. I just didn't think she'd make it so obvious. Maybe this was a sign. Diane's smirk made me feel sick as I searched my room for the third time. My passport had to be here. I had put it in my travel folder just yesterday. I even checked it 3 times before going to bed. Now, with less than 3 days before my flight to Munich, it was gone. My name is Laura, and for 17 years, I've been the one my family is never proud of. Not because I did something wrong, but because I try too hard, study too much, and worst of all, I won't pretend that my younger sister is the perfect one everyone loves. Mom, I called, trying not to sound upset. Have you seen my passport? Honey, you probably lost it, Mom answered from downstairs, her voice full of that usual tone that made me feel small. You always get forgetful when you're stressed. I saw Diane's reflection in the mirror. She stood in my doorway, playing with her perfect blonde hair. You know, Laura, she said with a fake smile, maybe this is God's way of telling you not to go. You're not really made for international life. The scholarship letter sitting on my desk told a different story. I had won a full scholarship to a top global policy program. They picked me out of thousands of students. I hadn't told my family right away because I knew how they'd react. I got into the program fair and square. I said, my hands shaking as I checked my drawer again. Why can't you just be happy for me? Oh, I am happy for you, Diane said, walking into my room without asking. I just worry about you. Remember your science fair project that suddenly caught fire? Or your prom dress that got bleach on it the night before? You're just unlucky. My teeth clenched. Those things weren't accidents, and we both knew it. Just like my missing passport wasn't an accident either. Laura, Dad shouted from downstairs. Family meeting.
Now.
I followed Diane down to the spotless living room. Mom and Dad sat like judges, ready to tell me what I could or couldn't do. Mom's cross necklace caught the light as she patted the couch beside her. Sweetheart, she said, we need to talk about this scholarship thing. There's nothing to talk about, I said, still standing. I earned this. I'm going, even without a passport. Dad raised an eyebrow. Be realistic, honey. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. You're not ready for something like this. I am ready, I said. She's just jealous. Diane jumped in, pretending to cry. Ever since I was asked to be the youth Eric, she's been trying to beat me. Now she's making up stories about a missing passport just to get attention. I'm not making anything up, I replied. But as I said it, I saw Mom pull Diane into a hug. Then she gave me that familiar look, the one that said I was being difficult again and hurting poor Diane. "Laura," Mom said softly, "sometimes God closes doors for a reason. Remember what Eric Trump said about being content." Something inside me quietly shifted. Not with anger, just calm, like a small click of a lock. "You're right," I said, surprising everyone. "Maybe I should pray about it." "That's my girl," Dad said, smiling like he was happy I was finally acting normal. "I think I need some time alone," I added, heading upstairs. "Of course, sweetie," Mom called after me. "I'll bring you some tea later." Once I was back in my room, I closed the door and grabbed my phone. My hands were steady now. I typed a message to Larry. "Plan Alpha is a go." He replied right away. "Backup passport ready." "You sure about this?" I looked out the window. I could see Diane across the yard, already on FaceTime with her friends. She was probably telling them how I had messed everything up again. She saw me and smiled, then blew me a kiss like she'd won. I thought about everything she had done over the years, sabotaging me, making me question myself, always trying to hold me back while getting praised for every small thing. They thought they knew me, that I was the quiet, obedient older daughter who would stay in the background forever. They were wrong. "Absolutely sure," I texted back. "See you at 4 a.m. I heard Mom's footsteps on the stairs. She was probably bringing the tea she promised. I wiped my face, ready to pretend I was heartbroken. Let them believe they'd won. In less than 3 days, they would find out how wrong they were about everything.
Especially about me.
The tea sat on my nightstand, untouched and getting cold, while I acted like I was crying into my pillow. Through the wall, I could hear Diane's dramatic voice on the phone. "I just feel so bad for her," she said. "She's always been, a little fragile." I checked my phone. It was 10:15 p.m. Time to move to the next step. I walked downstairs slowly, dragging my feet a little to seem sad. "Mom, Dad, can we talk?" They were in their usual spots, Dad in his recliner, Mom on the couch with her devotional book. They gave each other that look they always do when they think I'm being difficult. "Of course, sweetheart," Mom said, patting the couch. "We've been worried about you." I sat down, holding my phone tightly like it could protect me. I need to ask if you've seen my passport. The one I lost a few months ago." Dad sat up quickly. "A few months ago? What do you mean?" "Oh," I said, letting my voice shake a little. "I guess I forgot to mention it. I lost it in January, right after I found out about the scholarship. I was so embarrassed." Mom's face grew tense. "January? But you just got the scholarship letter last week." "Actually," I said, opening my email on my phone, "I got it in April. I just didn't know how to tell you." "You've been lying to us?" Dad stood up, clearly upset. "For months. Like how you're lying about my passport?" I replied quickly. Right then, Diane walked in like she had been waiting for her moment. "How dare you accuse us?" she said. "Mom, Dad, she's just blaming everyone again." "I'm not stupid," I said, standing up. "You've been trying to ruin things for me for years. The science fair project? I saw you with matches in the garage the night before. My prom dress? You were doing laundry right before it got bleached." "That's ridiculous," Diane said, her eyes filling with fake tears. "Mom, make her stop." "Laura," Mom said sharply, "apologize to your sister right now." "No," I said clearly. "I'm done saying sorry for just being myself. That's enough." Dad shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "Go to your room until you learn some respect." I turned to leave, then paused. You know what's funny? When I lost my passport in January, I ordered a new one right away. The office said it would take 4 to 6 weeks. The room went silent. "That was 3 months ago," I said. "Plenty of time for a new one to arrive, don't you think?" Mom's face turned pale. Diane stopped crying. "You're bluffing," she whispered. I opened the photo gallery on my phone. Here's me at the passport office. Date: January 20th. Here's the receipt. And here's the tracking info showing it was delivered in July. Dad spoke slowly. If you already have a new passport, where is it? I smiled. Somewhere safe. Where none of you can touch it. You ungrateful little. Diane started to rush toward me, but Mom grabbed her arm. Laura, Mom said, trying to sound calm, if you're planning something foolish. Like what? I asked. Following my dreams? Succeeding on my own? Or did you mean something foolish like stealing your sister's passport and lying about it? I never. Diane started.
Save it, I said.
I stopped her. I don't need the passport you stole. I don't need your approval. And I definitely don't need your prayers. I started walking up the stairs, but Mom called after me. We only want what's best for you. I turned back one last time.
No.
You want what's easiest for you. That's not the same thing. Back in my room, I locked the door and opened my laptop. A message from Larry popped up. Everything set for tomorrow. You okay? I thought about all the years of being gaslight. Being told I was overreacting. Being called difficult. I thought about Diane always acting innocent. About Mom using religion to control me. About Dad brushing everything off with a sigh. Better than okay, I typed back. They finally showed their true selves. Then my phone buzzed again.
Text from Diane.
You're making a huge mistake. Mom and Dad are really upset. Why do you always ruin everything? Please don't do this to our family. I blocked her number. Through the wall, I could hear her crying again. Mom and Dad rushed to comfort her, like always. The perfect daughter's image was falling apart, and she knew it. I checked my hidden backpack one last time, backup passport, scholarship papers, plane ticket. Everything was ready. In less than 7 hours, I'd be at the airport with Larry. Let them think they had won tonight. Let them believe their fake family image was still safe. Tomorrow would change everything. I set my alarm and lay down, not even trying to sleep. I wasn't the quiet, patient sister anymore. Tomorrow they'd learn what happens when you push someone too far. And I couldn't wait. The house was quiet at 3:30 a.m. when I got out of bed. I was already dressed. I hadn't slept much, but my mind was clear. I pulled my backpack from the crawl space behind my closet. My phone vibrated. Larry, outside in 6. You ready? I looked around my room one last time. 17 years of memories, most of them painful. The cross Mom had hung over my bed. Family photos where Diane was always in the center. The desk where I studied late at night, dreaming of leaving. On my pillow, I left a note. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Don't try to find me. I stepped over the 3rd stair from the bottom. It always made noise. In the kitchen, I smelled coffee. Dad must have set the timer the night before for his morning routine. The coffee machine made soft sounds, like it was helping me stay quiet. Then I heard a creak upstairs. I froze. Another step. Someone was awake. I quickly hid behind the kitchen island as Diane appeared at the top of the stairs. She was walking to the bathroom, still sleepy, eyes half closed. I held my breath. Then I heard the bathroom door close. My phone buzzed again here. I slowly walked to the front door, turning the handle little by little. I tried not to make any noise, but the hinges squeaked loudly like they were warning the whole house I was leaving. The bathroom door opened. Laura? Diane's voice sounded sharp and suspicious. I didn't answer. I pulled the door open and ran.
Mom, Dad.
Diane, she screamed. She's leaving. Larry's car was waiting at the curb with the headlights off. I ran across the lawn as lights turned on in the house. Laura Grace James. Don't you dare. Dad yelled from their bedroom window. I jumped into Larry's car. Go, go, go. He hit the gas just as my parents rushed out the front door in their pajamas. In the mirror, I saw Dad run halfway down the driveway before stopping, barefoot. Whoa, Larry laughed, turning the corner fast. That was crazy. Keep driving, I said, my heart beating fast. They might come after us. I planned for that, he said. He made 3 random turns, then pulled into a 20-hour grocery store parking lot. We'll switch to my sister's car. They don't know what it looks like. As we moved my bags to his sister's car, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Mom, come home right now, young lady. Dad, you're making a huge mistake. Diane, I can't believe you'd do this to our family. Mom, we're calling the police.
Dad, your mother is crying.
Diane, everyone will know what you did. I turned my phone off. You okay? Larry asked as we got on the highway in his sister's car. Better than okay, I said, watching the sunrise turn the sky pink. I'm free. We reached the airport by 5 a.m. Larry walked me to security. You sure about this? He asked. Once you go in, there's no going back. I've never been more sure, I said, hugging him tightly. Thank you for everything. Just promise you'll enjoy Munich and not spend the whole time thinking about revenge. I smiled. Why not both? Going through security felt like a dream. Every step took me farther away from their control, their guilt trips, their fake love. My backup passport worked without a problem. The TSA agent barely looked at it. At the gate, I turned my phone back on. I had hundreds of messages and missed calls.
But one post caught my eye.
Diane had posted a selfie from my bedroom. She looked sad. The caption said, "Sister's night in. Some people don't understand that family comes first." The comments were full of support. You're such a good sister. She doesn't deserve you. Praying for your family. I smiled and opened my own Instagram, which I hadn't used in months. I posted one photo. My boarding pass to Munich. The caption? Some people don't understand that freedom comes first. Then I turned my phone off, put it away, and looked out the window. The voice over the speaker said, "Now boarding flight 1753 to Munich." And just like that, my new life began. I stood up, grabbed my carry-on bag, and walked to the gate without looking back. Behind me were 17 years of being told I was too much, too different, or wanted too many things. In front of me was everything I had worked so hard for. Let Diane act like the victim. Let my parents call the police. Let them all believe they knew my story. I was finally going to write my own. Munich hit me like music, loud, beautiful, and completely different from the quiet life I had left behind. Standing outside Leonardo da Vinci International Airport, I turned my phone back on. The messages had changed. No more yelling or threats. Now they were trying to make peace. Mom, please just tell us you're safe. Dad, we can fix this together. Diane, you're being selfish. Mom won't stop crying. Then a new message popped up from an unknown number. Hi Laura, I'm Julie from the scholarship program. I'm your mentor. Look for the red scarf at arrivals. I saw her right away, tall, confident, and smiling, wearing that red scarf. You must be our American rebel, she said, pulling me into a warm hug. The coordinators told me a bit about your family. Don't worry, we've got your back. The scholarship housing was an old monastery covered in ivy. My room had a view of a quiet courtyard where students from all over the world were sitting, talking about politics and ideas. Orientation for the Global Policy Program starts in an hour, Julie said, helping me with my bags. Just a heads up, they're not easing you in. The UN ambassador to Germany is giving the welcome speech. I must have looked nervous, because she laughed. Relax, she said. After reading your application, I know you're ready. The orientation room was full of students and important guests. I sat near the front, trying to look calm. Today's first speaker, the program director announced, is a surprise guest. Laura from Miami will be sharing her ideas on digital activism. My heart stopped. What? I whispered. Julie smiled and nudged me. Surprise. I recommended you after reading your essay. Go show them what you've got. As I walked to the podium, I thought about all the times Diane had ruined my presentations. All the times my parents had ignored my success. Not this time. I took a deep breath and began. Social media isn't just about talking, I said. It's changing the way we protest, organize, and make real change. For 20 minutes, I owned that room. People asked questions, and I answered all of them. Even the ambassador nodded in approval. Afterward, Julie introduced me to all the important people. Laura's research on digital activism is amazing, she told the director. We're lucky to have her. My phone buzzed. A local news website from back home had posted a story about me. Local students' dramatic path to top scholarship raises questions about family life. The comment section was full of opinions. I know this family from church. There's more to this story. Good for her for getting out. What kind of sister steals a passport? Then I saw Diane's latest post. It was a tearful video of her talking about how she was praying for those who walk away from their families. But this time, the comments weren't all on her side. Didn't your sister just win a big scholarship? Why would anyone need to steal a passport? Maybe your sister had a reason to leave. Julie looked over my shoulder. Your sister? She asked. The golden child, I said. Or, at least she was. Well, Julie smiled. She's about to be in your shadow. The program wants to feature you in their international promo video. Filming starts tomorrow. My hands started shaking as I realized what this meant. People back home would have to watch me succeed. No more hiding. No more acting like I was the problem. That night, I sat in the courtyard with other students, eating pasta and sharing stories. For the first time, I felt truly seen, accepted, and respected. My phone buzzed again, a news alert. Rising Leader Award nominee announced, Laura from Miami chosen for Global Innovation. Julie walked over holding a bottle of champagne. Congratulations, she said. But you might want to check your email first. I opened it and saw a message from the program director. Your talk today was amazing. We'd like you to speak at next month's award ceremony. International reporters will be there. I smiled as I imagined Diane's face when she saw the news. Mom and Dad trying to explain to their church friends why they never talked about my success. Julie noticed. You're smiling. Thinking about home, I said. Thinking about justice. She raised her glass. To justice. And to the family we choose. Under the Roman night sky, surrounded by people who lifted me up instead of putting me down, I felt something shift. This wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about becoming who I was meant to be. My phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. We saw the news. We need to talk. I turned off my phone and rejoined a group. Someone was planning a midnight tour of the Colosseum. Let them worry. Let them wonder. Let them watch. I wasn't hiding anymore. Now for our special international segment, the news anchor's voice said back in Miami. A powerful story of success and strength. Thanks to Larry's group chat, I could picture it clearly. Mom dropping her coffee mug, Dad frozen in his chair, and Diane's perfect image starting to fall apart as my face appeared on the TV screen. Laura from Orlando, Florida, has been named this year's Rising Leader Award winner. Her work in digital activism is gaining global attention, the anchor said. The screen showed me, standing in front of the Deutsches Museum, finally being seen for who I truly am. I wore red, Diane's favorite color, just to make a point. On screen, I looked straight into the camera and said, success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Sometimes the people closest to you can't see your worth. That doesn't make it any less real. A message from Larry came just seconds later. Holy, your sister just stormed out. Your mom is calling the station trying to fix things. Facebook groups from back home were blowing up. Isn't that the James family's daughter? Their church always made her sound like the troubled one.
My kid went to school with Diane.
There were rumors. I watched everything unfold on social media. Diane's perfect image was falling apart right in front of everyone. You said she'd never make it. You said she'd fail. Diane's angry voice echoed through their house, according to Larry's updates. Mom quickly tried to do damage control. She posted in the church group. So proud of our Laura. We've always supported her dreams. Proud mama. But the comments weren't kind. Didn't you say she was just finding herself? Didn't your other daughter post that she ran away? Pretty sure you told my wife she was lost just last Saturday. Dad tried calling again. Laura, please. Your mom's reputation at church. I let it go to voicemail. Diane's Instagram followers were dropping fast. Her latest crying video about family loyalty didn't go well. Didn't you steal her passport? My cousin goes to your school. Everyone knows what you did. Maybe stop hurting others and work on yourself. She deleted the video. Then she deleted her entire account. Julie found me on the balcony, watching everything from my phone. Your phone's been buzzing for an hour, she said. Family drama, I replied, showing her the news site. They found my old school records. Straight A's, science fair wins, debate championships. All the stuff my family ignored. Julie scrolled through her phone. Your sister's youth Eric job, they're thinking about taking it away. Character issues. I didn't plan that, I said. But karma has its own way. Look at this, Julie said, showing me another update. The scholarship program had released my full list of speaking events. I was going to speak at the European Parliament next month. Then my phone buzzed again. Mom, people are asking questions at church. Please call us. We can explain. Dad, Laura, this isn't a very Christian thing to do. Diane, you've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I am, I said. Julie poured 2 glasses of wine. To watching them squirm, she said. To living well, I answered. I corrected Julie. It really is the best kind of revenge. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was Larry. You need to see this, he wrote. He had sent a video from outside my old house. News vans were everywhere. A reporter was talking to neighbors. They always favored the younger one neighbor said. That poor girl worked so hard, but they only praised her sister. The church was now starting an investigation into my family's behavior. Mom had locked herself in the house. Dad wasn't answering any calls. Diane's friends were pulling away from her. The perfect family image they built was falling apart, and they had no one to blame but themselves. The UN wants to expand your speaking tour, Julie said casually. 3 more countries. All expenses paid. I thought about my family watching me appear on TV again and again, unable to ignore or downplay my success. Every event would break apart their fake story a little more. When do we leave? I asked. Julie smiled. That's my girl. Oh, and heads up, international press conference tomorrow. Got anything you want to say to your family? I looked out over Munich's skyline, thinking of all the times they told me to stop dreaming big, to stay quiet, to know my place. Just one message, I said, opening my camera. I took a photo of myself in front of the Colosseum, wearing a red dress glowing in the sunset. Success written all over my face. Then I posted it with the caption, "Sometimes the black sheep is the only one who sees the truth. Let them choke on it." The press conference room was full of energy. Cameras flashed everywhere. Julie stood next to me, whispering last-minute advice. "Remember," she said, "you're not just a student anymore. You're a symbol." A reporter raised her hand. "Ms. Laura, your research on digital activism has impressed the UN. But there's also huge interest in your personal story. Do you want to say anything about the family situation going viral online?" I stepped up to the microphone and remembered all the times I'd been told to stay quiet. My story isn't rare. Many young people grow up in homes where their dreams are ignored or crushed. But I don't believe that's love. And I don't have to accept it as love. Your sister said you're twisting the truth to get attention. What's your response? I kept my voice steady. I think the facts speak for themselves, I said, pulling up my slides. Here's my school record. Here's the passport timeline. And here's the security footage from my high school showing my sister messing with my science fair project. I didn't make up this story. I just stopped hiding it. The room burst into questions. Through the live stream, I could see comments from people in my hometown reacting in real time. One reporter said, "Your parents claim they've always supported you." I looked at her calmly. "I have 17 years of proof showing otherwise. Would you like to see it?" Back home, Diane's perfect world was falling apart fast. Larry sent me video clips from Diane's latest youth group meeting. "How can you teach us about honesty?" one teenager asked. "Didn't you steal your sister's passport?" Another teen added, "My mom says we need a new youth leader." Diane ran out crying. But this time, her tears weren't getting her what she wanted. Mom's last-minute efforts to fix things only made it worse. She had posted a long message on Facebook saying she supported both her daughters equally. But someone shared old screenshots of her past posts, ones where she ignored or mocked my achievements. The church board called an emergency meeting. Dad stopped going to his men's prayer breakfasts. Their image in the community was falling apart. Then a news alert popped up on my phone. Global Policy Initiative expands youth program. Laura named program ambassador. Julie smiled and nudged me. They want to offer you a full-time position after graduation, with full diplomatic status. I thought about all the times my parents had said I would never succeed without them. Now I was being offered a future they couldn't even imagine. Miss Laura, a reporter called out, your sister's recent video says you're trying to punish the family. Is that true? No, I said clearly. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just succeeding.
They're not used to that.
After the press conference, Julie showed me the latest updates. My story wasn't just popular, it was becoming a movement. #WhyBlackSheepSucceed was trending everywhere. Check your email, Julie said with a big smile. The White House Youth Leadership Summit wants you to be their keynote speaker. I opened my laptop and saw hundreds of messages from young people around the world. My family tried to stop me from going to college. They always praised my brother and ignored me. You gave me the courage to apply for a scholarship. Then I noticed an old email thread titled Family Updates. Mom had started it years ago to share only Diane's accomplishments with relatives. I had never been mentioned. I hit reply all and added a video clip of my latest interview. Then I wrote, sometimes love doesn't feel like love. It feels like control, like being told to be less so someone else can be more. That's not love. That's emotional abuse pretending to be protection. I hit send. Minutes later, replies came pouring in from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. We had no idea. Your parents only ever talked about Diane. Now everything makes sense. Larry texted again. Your mom left church in tears. The Eric's wife wouldn't even sit with her. Diane's been removed from the youth leadership program, he added. Officially, for personal reasons. I thought I'd feel proud or smug, but instead, I just felt calm.
Free.
Like I could finally breathe without worrying if I was taking up too much space. Julie walked in holding a stack of papers. Time to sign, she said. The UN doesn't like to wait. As I signed the contract, my phone lit up with one final message from Dad. We hope you find what you're looking for. No apology. No truth. Just cold distance pretending to be concerned. I picked up my phone and typed, I already found it. I found myself, the version you tried to hide, and she's amazing. Then I turned to Julie. When's our flight to Lausanne? Tomorrow morning, she said with a smile. The world's waiting. Let them watch from their small-town shadows. Let them see what happens when you try to dim someone's light. I wasn't hiding anymore, and I was just getting started. The gala ballroom sparkled with lights and elegance. I adjusted my microphone. 3 months had passed since I walked away from everything. And tonight, it all came together. The Rising Leader Awards ceremony, broadcast around the world. Ready, Julie said, straightening my navy blue dress. Your family is definitely watching. Larry said they're gathered at your house with church elders, praying for your soul. I smiled. Let them pray. I'm done feeling guilty for making them uncomfortable. The program director walked on stage. Tonight's award goes to someone who has redefined what it means to overcome hardship. Please welcome Laura. I walked up to the stage. As I reached the podium, memories came rushing back. Every harsh comment, every ruined chance, every time they told me to stay small. Not tonight. Most success stories start with, I had a dream. I began. Mine starts with, I had a backup passport. The crowd laughed gently. We talk about toxic relationships. I continued, but we don't always talk about toxic love, the kind that holds you back while pretending to protect you. The kind that lifts one child up while pushing the other down. I noticed a few ambassadors leaning forward, listening closely. My sister took my passport, so I couldn't come here. My parents supported her and called it God's will. But here's the truth. They weren't protecting me. They were protecting themselves from the pain of watching me outgrow what they could understand. The cameras showed the audience's focused faces. The silence was full of power. My clutch buzzed with a message from Larry. Your mom just left the room crying. Diane tried to live stream a response, but it's not working. I looked back at the crowd. To every young person who's ever been told to dream smaller, to settle, to stay quiet, know this. You don't have to shrink yourself for others. You don't have to give up your light just to make someone else comfortable. Your potential is only a threat to people who want control. Julie gave me a thumbs up from the side of the stage. Tonight, I accept this award not just for me, I said, but for every black sheep who refused to stay where they were told. For every scapegoat who chose to rise instead of stay silent. The applause began, soft at first, then louder. And to my family watching from home, I said, pausing to let the moment settle. Thank you. Your efforts to hold me back only showed me how much space I was meant to fill. I was meant to shine. Their fear of my light only proved how bright it really was. The crowd stood and clapped. Cameras flashed. I saw tears in the audience. Later, at the reception, my phone filled with notifications. Diane had finally posted her response video. My sister's speech was a cruel attack on our loving family, she cried. We only ever wanted what was best for her. But the comments were brutal. Give it up, sis. Did you return the passport yet? Your act isn't working anymore. She deleted the video in minutes. Julie walked over with a group of UN officials. They want to expand your speaking tour to Asia, France, and United Kingdom. Your story is connecting with people everywhere. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. We hope you find what you're looking for. The same message as before. Still no apology. Still no sign they truly understood. I handed my phone to Julie. Block their numbers. All of them. You sure? She asked. They're not watching because they care. They're watching to look for flaws, to prove they were right about me all along. I'm done trying to earn their approval. A reporter walked over with one last question. What makes you most proud of your journey? I thought of the scared girl who had hidden a backup passport. The sister who had been sabotaged. The daughter told her dreams were too big. That I got here on my own, I said. Even when no one believed I could. After the reporters left, Julie joined me on the balcony. Your story is all over the major news networks, she said. They're calling you the voice of a generation. And my family? I asked. Your aunt called the program office, she said. Your parents are stepping down from church leadership to focus on family healing. I laughed. That's code for, we can't handle the public backlash. And Diane? I asked. Lost her youth Eric role. Her social media followers are dropping fast. And her perfect image is gone. Looks like karma doesn't take prayer requests, I said. Julie handed me a glass of champagne.
To the black sheep. To freedom, I said. And to never looking back.
Below us, Munich sparkled like a sea of possibilities. Somewhere in Miami, my family was probably making up a new story about their lost daughter. But I wasn't lost. For the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I was never going back to being small. Later, in my hotel suite in Lausanne, I opened my laptop. A global youth magazine had sent interview questions. Most were easy about family, growth, and success. But the last question stopped me. Was revenge worth the cost of losing your family? Julie looked up from the couch. You don't have to answer that one. Yes, I do, I said and started typing. Revenge sounds like I acted out of anger. But I didn't. I just stopped believing that their idea of love was the only kind that mattered. The real question isn't, was the revenge worth it? It's, is freedom worth the price you pay for it? My phone buzzed. Larry had sent a news clip from home. My parents' church was now split over family values. The same Eric who once praised them was now questioning their actions. Your mom tried to join a new church, Larry texted. They Googled her first. I thought I'd feel proud. But I didn't. No anger.
No joy.
Just peace, like I had finally let go. Miss Laura? There was a knock at my door. The UN Secretary General moved up your meeting. The car is waiting. Julie grabbed her tablet, already thinking about the policies we'd be discussing. Almost ready, I said. I turned back to finish the interview. Success isn't sweet revenge, I typed. It's proof that their limits were never mine. Their small dreams weren't my future. Their fear was never my ceiling. In the hotel lobby, we waited for the El Julietter. Around us, diplomats moved with purpose. Nearby, I saw a mom arguing with her daughter. "But I don't want to be a lawyer," the girl said. "You're not choosing. This is tradition," her mom snapped. I stepped forward. "Excuse me," I said. They both turned and looked surprised. "You're that speaker," the mom said. "The one with the family story." "The one whose family tried to hold her back?" "Yes," I said. Then I looked at the girl. "Let me guess, they say it's for your protection?" The girl nodded, her eyes wide. "Protection that feels like a cage," I said. "Isn't protection at all." I gave her my card. "Email me. I know some great art schools in Munich." The mother opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Something in her face changed. In the car, Julie raised an eyebrow. That was new. "Maybe that's the real revenge," I said. "Helping others escape what I went through."
My phone buzzed again.
A post from Diane, the first in months. "To my sister, I'm sorry. Not for show. Not for attention.
Just sorry.
I was wrong." Comments poured in. Finally, honesty. Takes courage to admit that. Character growth. I checked her profile. Her bio now read, "Learning to celebrate others' light instead of trying to dim it." Julie looked over. "Are you going to reply?" "No," I said, putting my phone away. Her growth isn't my job anymore. At the UN building, an assistant rushed over. "The Secretary General would like you to share your personal story before you speak on policy." I paused. I thought about that scared girl who once hid a backup passport. I thought about Diane's first real apology. I thought about that mother back in the hotel lobby, finally listening. "Tell him," I said. "I'll share something better. I'll share what comes after survival." That evening, back in my hotel suite, I opened my laptop to finish the interview. People always ask me, "Was revenge worth losing your family?" But that question assumes family is only about blood and tradition. Sometimes, family is the friend who believed in you first, the person who helps you escape, the mentor who sees your talent, the strangers who support you when no one else does. Sometimes, family isn't the people you're born to. Sometimes, family is choosing yourself when no one else will. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't making them feel sorry. It's making them unimportant to your happiness. I hit send, then walked to the window. Lausanne's lights sparkled below, each one a sign of hope, a dream, a future with no limits but mine. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. "I saw your speech. I'm leaving for college tomorrow. My parents said I couldn't, but I got a backup passport too. Thank you for showing me how." I smiled, remembering that first moment of freedom on the flight to Munich. "Good luck," I typed back. "The world is bigger than their fears." Julie appeared at my door. "The car's here. Time for your TED Talk." I grabbed my notes and glanced at my reflection in the mirror. No more sadness in my eyes. No more fear in my shoulders. Only strength, purpose, and the calm confidence of someone who finally chose herself. "Ready," I said. We stepped into the hallway. "Let's go help more black sheep find their wings." Behind me, my phone lit up with another message from Diane. Whatever it said could wait. I had a future to build, one brighter than any past they ever tried to trap me in. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.